Chapter 1233. 7 loaths flew out of the warship. Good luck. Yu Yuan waved his hand in disgust, indicating that this eyesore should get out of his sight as far away as possible. 7 loaths didn't say a word. The heavenly star beast he had refined turned into a streak of dazzling starlight and quickly disappeared into the gap between 2 meteors. It's actually not very comfortable for a warship to sail through the Chilean star system. Plus, it'll be too conspicuous. Elena looked around, and her gaze finally stopped in a direction. A nostalgic expression appeared on her face, as if she was thinking of a beautiful past. Her eyes suddenly became much gentler. Other than the Shadow Illusion star system and the Silver Sand star system, there's also the Firefly star system nearby. Rong Sun of the Thunder Sky sect also walked out of the warship after the heavenly star beast. Looking around, Rong Sun felt a chilly aura of killing as he looked at the desolate scene that looked like an apocalyptic battlefield. Images of tall Shura warriors wearing heavy armor and holding divine weapons appeared in his mind. They were besieging the human race and the grand monsters. He had seen such a scene dozens of times. It had been deeply imprinted in his soul. Taking in a breath of turbid air, Rong Sun regained his composure. With an indifferent expression, he looked at the dazed Elena and said, "If I remember correctly, the Firefly Star Zone has always been ruled by the Azura race. Your father, Fernand, is close to Geralt because he used to be the commander of the Firefly Star System and the actual ruler there." Elena didn't even turn her head. She was still looking ahead. "This isn't a secret." Yu Yuan was secretly surprised. He naturally looked at Rong Sun. Fernand, who was reduced to the king of bandits, was said to have won Saboni's approval back in the Thousand-Bird realm. The Shura of Gojoseon wrote off all the sins he used to bear. Fernand seemed to want his daughter to return to the Shura race and the Firefly star system. Rong Sun paid attention to his words. Obviously, he also knew that the relationship between Yu Yuan and Elena was unusual. "Yu Yuan, we just had to come to Yulin Star Field. You have to be careful. Don't be careless and encounter any unexpected changes. After all, she can change her identity at any time, from a bandit to a pure Azura warrior." Rong Sun reminded him out of kindness. Elena turned around with her hands on her hips and said unhappily, "Are you suspecting me?" "I'm just saying." Rong Sun's expression was calm as he explained with a smile, "You Azura clansmen respect and worship that man more than any other foreign race. He was severely injured in the Thousand Birds world because of the Shunhun sect. You also witnessed it with your own eyes. Don't tell me you don't feel resentment?" And Yu Yuan represents the Shunhun sect. As for the one inside, with these words, Rong Sun pointed at the dilapidated starship and said, "Azuras contributed a lot to the death of that one 100,000 years ago. I don't think your people will treat Yu Yuan and her well." After hearing this, the expressions of Jin Haolong and the others became thought-provoking. They also thought that Rong Sun's worries were reasonable. The Azura race was not a star race. Not only did they not have a deep relationship with the Shunhun sect and the Tongtian Trading Company, but they had also just become enemies. Elena's eyes were filled with anger. She glared at them and was about to explain to Yu Yuan when she suddenly heard the dull sound of a horn. The sound of the horn was sad and melodious, with an obvious foreign style. Yu Yuan of course heard it too. He was dazed and said, "Is it not peaceful here? This is the Yulin star system, the most famous foreign battlefield. How can it be peaceful?" Siebin seemed very calm. Instead, he comforted him. "Don't worry. Although battles can break out everywhere in the Yulin star system, it's not easy for us to encounter a situation like the one we encountered earlier. Yes. It's rare for so many Freedom Realm experts and Level 9 Bloodline experts to gather in one place," Han Dan said. "Wait a moment. It's the distress horn of our race," Elena begged. "Your race?" Yu Yuan was surprised. "To be exact, it's a big family in the Firefly star system. That family used to be loyal to my father and very close to us. Elena hurriedly explained. Without waiting for Yu Yuan and the others' reactions, she abandoned the warship, activated her bloodline power, and left. Yu Yuan, when Fernand became a bandit, many Azuras of the Firefly star system were loyal to him. Rong Sun hesitated and said, "You can rest assured about Elena, but she's an Azura after all." Shura of Gojoseon Sabonis was seriously injured in Thousand Bird Realm, and that divine sword left through the Dark Realm. You have to be careful. After Fernand became a bandit, the secret base he chose was on the other side of the Shadow Illusion star system. That secret base is close to the Shadow Illusion star system and the Firefly star system. This means that Gerard and the original Azura of the Firefly star system may know about it. Rong Sun knew a lot of information. That secret base was attacked by other bandits not long ago, and suddenly exposed. Hearing this, Xiebin and Han Dan also spoke, telling him to be careful. With a smile on her face, Yu Yuan waited for them to finish before she lazily stretched her body and said, "It's time to separate." "It's good that you understand," Rong Sun said with relief. Xiebin and the others also looked relaxed. "I mean, it's time to part with you." Yu Yuan shook his head and then said seriously, "The identity of the person in the warship is too sensitive. I don't know how big of a storm it will cause later. We just ran into each other in the floating life realm, and then we coincidentally met again. Don't get too involved with me and her. Leave as soon as possible." With these words, Yu Yuan suddenly flew towards the place where Elena had disappeared. The four of them looked at each other, not knowing what to do. The broken silver chariots floated quietly in the void between the meteors, their wheels rolling. On the small meteors there were jagged rocks and dry ravines. More than a dozen Azura warriors, holding long spears and short spears in one hand and huge silver shields engraved with crossed battle axes in the other, knelt in front of an Azura warrior whose chest was wounded to the bone. A slender female Azura was applying sticky medicine to his wounds and murmuring, "You'll be fine. You'll live." Not far from them, a bearded Azura warrior blew a horn that looked like a bull's horn. Whoosh! A streak of light that looked like a waterfall suddenly appeared in their sight, causing them to grow excited. "It's our clansmen. Our Lord Shirala and Lord Damien coming from the domain of Shadow Illusion. Why is there only one person?" The Azura clansmen here had received word not long ago that they had come from the domain of Firefly to the domain of Shadow Illusion to cooperate with the Azura and Geralt there. The reason why they had come was because they had been on good terms with Geralt for hundreds of years. Even though Fernand had become a bandit, Geralt was still willing to treat them well, and they had a close trade relationship. The severely wounded Azura warrior actually struggled to his feet when he saw the newcomers, ignoring the wounds in his chest and pointing his spear at them. "Miss Elena. Heavens, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Am I going to die because of my injuries?" Thud. Thud thud. The spear kept stabbing into the ground, causing the rocks below to explode and pieces of stone to fly everywhere. "Uncle Berto." Elena's eyes shone with joy. As soon as she landed, she rushed forward to help the severely wounded warrior. The other Azura clansmen's expressions became strange and complicated the moment they saw her. Some of them wanted to go over and salute her, but they were stopped by others who shook their heads to indicate that they did not want to. "Princess Elena." They bowed their heads and thought of the past, their lips dry. "We all pay our respects to Her Highness." The severely wounded Berto was obviously angry. He stabbed his spear into the ground and roared, "Her Highness is the pride of the domain of Firefly. She was and she will be. Don't you idiots know that our king has already pardoned Lord Damien and Her Highness? Your Highness, you've come here to return to your homeland, haven't you? Don't worry. We've been prepared and I've received orders. The domain of Firefly will still be the domain of Firefly, and we will still be loyal to Her Highness and Lord Damien. Unfortunately, we couldn't wait for Lord Damien's return. Lord Damien died in Thousand Bird Realm. Birdo clenched his fists, his face filled with strong killing intent. Damned Howran humans! One day we will flatten Howran and kill all living beings there. Flatten Howran! Kill them all! The Azura warriors of the domain of Firefly responded to Birdo's call and beat their chests as they swore. Yu Yuan, who had secretly followed them, stopped in front of another rock and looked at the furious Azura warriors with an awkward expression. He did not rush forward. Chapter 1234. Crack. A few more of Birdo's ribs broke after golden light shot out of them. The Azura warrior, who had been supported by the long spear and had not fallen to the ground earlier, was no longer able to withstand the weight of his injured body. His knees immediately went limp and weak. The corner of Birdo's mouth was full of dirty blood and specks of golden sand. Damned golden crag beasts! The slender female Shura clenched her teeth and cursed in a low voice. Another group of golden crag beasts! Elena's expression changed slightly. She looked at the wound on Birdo's chest and saw that the ointment she applied to it didn't seem to have much effect. She couldn't help but worry. Your Highness, I won't die. Tell me, where did you come from? I received news that the stronghold you and Milord set up to store resources has been attacked by other bandits. Don't worry, when your Highness returns to the Firefly Star Zone, you'll still be our young miss. Birdo didn't care about his injuries. He forced a smile on his face and yelled, "There's someone!" The expression of the Azura warrior, who had stopped blowing the horn, suddenly changed as he looked at the black-robed man in the distance. A human cultivator from Hao Kuang. He doesn't have a yang spirit body. The moment he said this, the Shura clansmen present all showed expressions of despair. The yang spirit bodies of human cultivators did not contain much flesh aura. They were made of pure spiritual energy and soul power, mixed with rare heavenly materials and earthly treasures, and refined with great care. It was easy for them to distinguish the sun god. If a human cultivator didn't have a yang spirit body, it was very likely that he was in the carefree realm. If he encountered a human carefree realm cultivator at this time, wouldn't he die without a doubt? Your Highness, run! We'll fight to the death for you! Birdo let out a roar like a trapped beast. He struggled to activate all the remaining bloodline power in his body. Get into formation and charge. Use your deaths to buy a chance for your Highness to escape. The dozen or so rank 7 and rank 8 Shura warriors immediately scattered. None of them were afraid. From the looks of it, they would charge in the next moment and use their own deaths to give Elena a slim chance of survival. Stay where you are. Elena snorted. Then, ignoring the astonishment of these Azura clansmen, she turned into a stream of crimson light and flew toward Yu Yuan in the distance. When Yu Yuan saw her, he hesitated for a moment before shaking his head at her. Then, he pointed at the shattered ground beneath his feet. Whoosh! Yu Yuan suddenly disappeared. When Elena landed, she stopped at the place where Yu Yuan had been standing. With a glance, she saw several bottles and jars on the hard black stone ground. Inside, there was a bright, viscous liquid. Elena was startled and immediately understood Yu Yuan's intentions. She picked up the bottles on the ground and sensed a wisp of remnant soul thought. Go home. Go back to your Firefly Starfield. Elena's beautiful face suddenly showed nervousness and uneasiness. She looked around for Yu Yuan's traces, but she didn't see anything. Your Highness! Your Highness Elena! At this time, the Azura clansmen behind her who were worried about her and Bodo all shouted loudly. A few of the older rank 8 Azuras ignored her attempts to stop them and chased after them. I'm fine. Don't worry. Elena turned around and saw Bodo, who was bleeding from the corner of his mouth because of his anxious cries. Finally, he fell powerlessly. She immediately dismissed the idea of returning to the warship. That person just now should be a fake Freedom Realm expert. Oh, a young god realm cultivator of the ancient Baron sect can also fly in outer space. she lied, put away the bottles and jars left behind by Yu Yuan, and flew back to her clansmen. She took out the bottle with Yu Yuan's soul thought and poured the viscous medicine inside on Bodo's chest. After watching the medicine solidify and scab form on Bodo's wound, she carefully sensed his condition and gradually relaxed. Uncle Bodo, you'll be fine. So it's a cultivator of the ancient Baron sect. You scared me. Some special sects in Howren are good at refining the physical body. They can enter outer space with their true bodies while still in the Yang God realm. I thought it was a Freedom Realm cultivator. Thank goodness. The Azura clansmen looked at Bodo as they discussed. Color had returned to Bodo's face. The hidden power of the golden stone beast in his chest had finally dissipated after a few outbursts. When they smelled an unusually strong life force that didn't belong to Bodo, they were even more relieved. Your Highness? One of them asked tentatively. Stay here. I have something to take care of. Wait for me. Elena was relieved. She didn't even ask about the golden stone beast and hurriedly flew away. A moment later, she came to the place where the damaged warship was parked and found it empty. Rong Sun and the others were nowhere to be seen. Even Princess Qing Luan, who was supposed to be asleep, wasn't in the cabin. You've abandoned me once again. Elena's expression fell. She sat sadly at the entrance of the cabin. She put her hands on her knees and used her blood power and weak soul will to scan the nearby starry river. She found nothing. Of course, Elena knew that even though that person was in a deep slumber, she was not someone who others could come into contact with. Rong Sun and the others didn't dare. Strangers and outsiders would probably be taken away by her death and destructive power as soon as they entered the cabin, let alone touch her. Only Yu Yuan could get close to her, carry her on his back, and take her away from this warship. You want me to go back to the field of fireflies for my own good? Do you think you and that person will drag me down just like last time? But you didn't ask for my opinion. You didn't ask if I was willing or not. Damn you, this is the second time. Fine, if you don't let me go, I'll go directly to the winged races world when I return to the field of fireflies. After a long time, Elena clenched her fists and made up her mind. She didn't chase after them or search for them because she was worried about Berto and the others. She wanted to protect her clansmen and hope that they were safe. Those people didn't know how dangerous the domain of illusions was. If they rushed in, they might suffer more than they had in the domain of dark forest. After I dismantle this warship, I can repair those broken war chariot. Elena's thoughts raced. Not long after, the broken battleship roared again, flying towards Bo Tuaw and the others. Just as Elena had expected. As usual, Yu Yuan carried the Empress of the Blue Phoenix on his back and flew across the sea of meteorite. Now and then, he would stop to take a rest and figure out the direction. The Empress on his back had concealed her spirit power, flesh aura and soul power. She didn't seem to be affected at all. He had a feeling that the Empress, with her terrifying combat strength, was even more mysterious than when she was in the floating life realm. He couldn't figure out her thoughts or figure out her condition. When they landed on a relatively large meteor, Yu Yuan felt that it was burning. He couldn't help but be surprised. After a moment of hesitation, he didn't put Shen Qinghuang down. Instead, he channeled the Nine Lights heavenly wheel. He immediately sensed that wisps of blazing flame energy were generated from the dark red meteor and poured into his lower dantian. His mind shook, and he instantly realized what was going on. It's a fragment of a broken sun. The Chilean star zone used to have a sun, a moon, and stars. Just like the illusion star zone, the sun, the moon, and all the stars exploded because of the racial war that had lasted for thousands of years. It turned into the famous alien battlefield. Right here. Let's gather the refined sun energy and adjust. He carefully and slowly put Shen Qinghuang down. During this process, he observed the Empress's expression. If Shen Qinghuang showed even the slightest discomfort, he would stop. As expected, the beautiful face of Her Majesty the Empress, whose divine power reached the heavens, was filled with serenity. Looking at the face that would only appear in the most charming of dreams, Yu Yuan was dazzled. He couldn't help but touch the Empress's cheek. Her skin was as white as jade. It felt wonderful to the touch. The Empress's long eyelashes suddenly trembled. Like a thief who had been caught, Yu Yuan shuddered and hurriedly turned around. He sat down cross-legged in another direction and focused his eyes on his nose and his nose on his heart. He calmly circulated the 9 luminaries' heavenly wheel. Her Majesty the Empress, who was in a deep sleep, revealed a beautiful smile. She seemed to be mocking something disdainfully. Chapter 1235. At the edge of the domain of dark forest, next to the domain of silver sand, an inconspicuous meteor opened up like a shell. Faint spatial fluctuations rippled as a dazzling halo suddenly appeared at the mouth of the shell, which opened like a door. Swoosh! Swoosh! People walked out of it one after another. They were all dressed in bright clothes, and their skin was as translucent as jade. All of them were young gods. Fang Yao, who had a shiny bald head, led Yuan Lianyao, a rising star of the Red Devil School, to the center of the group. Yuan Lianyao, who was in the crowd, was indescribably beautiful. Her refined young god body was like the most blazing flame crystal. Anyone who got close to her would feel uncomfortable. This was actually a sign that she had just entered the young god stage, and didn't have a good grasp of her power. Fang Yao sighed inwardly as he looked at the crack on her neck, which could only be noticed by a close look. The Red Devil School was located on the tranquil continent, which had the word devil in its name. Therefore, the incantations and secret magics they practiced were classified as devil cultivators. They focused on making breakthroughs quickly, and then slowly getting rid of their inner demons. However, in Fang Yao's eyes, Yuan Lianyao's breakthrough speed was too fast. It was because of this that something went wrong when she was refining her young god body, causing her neck to crack like the most delicate porcelain, which was then pieced back together. Some flaws were left in her young god body. There are still some suns in the domain of dark forest that haven't been fully explored. I'll take you to find them. The essence of the sun fragments might be able to help you mend your imperfect body. As Fang Yao spoke, he took 2 medallions from the Xuantianzong Grand Cultivator who was in charge of this place. He handed one medallion to Yuan Lianyao and explained, "This is one of the most famous battlefields in the Starry River. In order to avoid accidents, the crossings of the Starry River here aren't fixed. They're always changing. Only the medallions in our hands can let us sense the latest location of the crossings of the Starry River in the domain of dark forest." "Lin Yan, has anything big happened here recently?" someone from the Heavenly Evil sect asked. Lin Yan, a late young soul grand cultivator from Xuantianzong, was in charge of guarding the crossing of the stars. He had a square face and thick eyebrows. Sitting off to the side, he glanced at the group of cultivators from the tranquil continent and said indifferently, "It's not a big deal. Chao Jiaza from my sect, Su Jingyao from the Primal Yang sect, Zhu Huan, Fu Xianwen, and a few others have gone to the nearby domain of illusion. I heard that Liu and Beirut are here. They want to kill Liu in the domain of shadow illusion while everyone's attention is on the domain of deep darkness." Lin Yan's expression was indifferent as he said, "Shouldn't you enter the Dark Star region? The main forces over there are the Devil's Palace, the Goblin Temple, and the experts of the Sword Sect. We have just refined our young spirit not long ago, so we don't want to get involved in the battle over there." Fang Yao laughed. The reason why he had brought Yuan Lianyao here was because he could see that she was eager to make a breakthrough and rush into the Starry River. The domain of deep darkness was where Yu Yuan had gone missing. Fang Yao didn't want Yuan Lianyao to run into Yu Yuan so early in the Starry River, so he had come here. He also wanted to find a piece of the sun and help Yuan Lianyao refine her yang spirit. I wish you a safe trip to the domain of Dark Forest. Lin Yen from Xuantianzong didn't seem to be enthusiastic about this group of visitors from his hometown at all. The group didn't pay much attention to him. After asking a few more questions, they left in groups. Yu Yuan opened his eyes. Because of the operation of his 9 lights heavenly wheel, the meteor under him was as hot as a piece of iron. Worried, he couldn't help but turn his head to look at Chen Qinghuang. The Empress was still sleeping peacefully. The heat waves rising from the blazing meteor clearly didn't affect her. Yu Yuan nodded inwardly as he sent a wisp of his consciousness into the Golden Hall microcosm. He saw bits of mixed flame power and spirit power falling into the sea of spirit power like a rain of fire. The crimson sea of spirit power was calm and tranquil. When the rain of fire fell, it silently merged into it. As soon as the thought appeared in his mind, the sea of spirit power suddenly surged. Streaks of spirit power reached his acupoints and meridians. Boom! An incomparably vigorous aura naturally spread out and merged with the blazing meteor under him. The flame power inside a meteor formed after the sun exploded can be absorbed by spirit incantations. What I've refined now is only a small part of it. I can still use it for a long time. Yu Yuan rubbed his chin and pondered, thinking that it would be great if the meteor could move and carry him away like a battleship. That way, he would be able to continuously extract spirit power from it and cultivate. After familiarizing himself with the domain of Dark Forest, he discovered that it was different from the domain of illusion, the domain of darkness, and the domain of annihilation. Perhaps it was because of the Great Realm explosion, but even the chaotic and ubiquitous energy of the universe was so thin that it was almost non-existent in many areas of the otherworld battlefield. Since he practiced the evil demon body refining art, he could absorb power from the chaotic, filthy, and toxic energies. However, in the domain of Dark Forest, he couldn't just find a random place to recover with the evil demon sex spirit incantations. Most of the areas didn't have any kind of spirit power or spirit power. It was like a vacuum. Furthermore, in some specific locations, extremely chaotic and violent energy would gather, causing even his heart to palpitate. He didn't dare to use the fiend body refinement art to seize the energy. It was a great fortune to find such a precious meteor under him that the 9 lights heavenly wheel could absorb and convert its flame power into spirit power. He almost didn't want to leave. After an unknown period of time, 5 dark red figures leaped from the other meteors into the sky, and then plummeted to the ground, gradually approaching Yetian. A sun fragment. A short fire salamander warrior with a tortoiseshell armor on his back took the lead and approached. A human grand cultivator. As he got closer, he suddenly noticed that Yu Yuan, who was standing next to a rock, seemed to have seen a demon. This 7th-level fire salamander let out a cry. The fire lizard race clansman behind him shuddered because of his scream. The domain of Dark Forest had a special environment. Most of the areas didn't even have the corrosive power of the universe. Therefore, these fire salamanders, who had once come from the domain of Dark Forest, dared to secretly come back to explore and collect the wreckage of warships, broken tools, and weapons left behind after the fierce war between the human race and the foreign races. They made a profit by picking up junk. Unexpectedly seeing Yu Yuan in a dangerous place like the domain of Dark Forest was no different from seeing the Grim Reaper. Yu Yuan glanced at them lazily. When he saw that this squad of fire salamanders was carrying enormous snakeskin bags with many worthless items hanging from their waists and backs, he frowned. He didn't even have the interest to pay attention to them. He waved his hand, indicating that the fire salamanders should leave. From Elena, he learned that this was the alien battlefield. It used to be ruled by the dark spirit race, but there were many fire salamanders, silver scales, and moonlight people living here. The fire salamanders in front of him were natives of this place. Because of the human race's successful construction of a star river crossing, the domain of Dark Forest became the present alien battlefield. After experiencing many things, his mentality gradually changed. When he saw the foreign beings, he no longer instinctively felt hostility and disgust. The 5 fire salamanders were overjoyed when they saw him waving his hand to dismiss them. They immediately turned around and ran. However, as they ran, the 5 fire lizard race clansmen suddenly stopped and gathered together to whisper to each other in their own language. Then, the 5 fire salamanders put down their backpacks and took out weapons shining with cold light from the snakeskin bags in their hand. With ferocious glints in their eyes, they cautiously turned their heads back. Yu Yuan was speechless at first. Then he realized what was going on. He couldn't help but shake his head and chuckle. It seems that kindness and friendliness in the alien battlefield will be regarded as weakness. The 5 fire salamanders, whose fighting strength and bloodline were not strong enough, obviously thought that he was seriously injured. Or maybe he was a fake human sun god. Chapter 1236. Yu Yuan summoned Gendo's blood prison. Just as the thought of killing grew in his mind, Gendo flew out like a rainbow. Artifact connection. Specks of blood-red light sparkled on the surface of the blade like stars. The 7 larger specks of blood-red light suddenly let out bloodthirsty growls. The moment the fire lizard race saw Gendo fly out, they knew they had hit a wall. Unfortunately, when they wanted to retreat, it was too late. When Gendo approached, it seemed to turn into a blood-red fog that enveloped the 5 fire lizard race clansmen and devoured them, including their bones and flesh. Not long after, 5 inconspicuous specks of blood-red light appeared in the blood-red world inside Gendo. When Gendo returned meekly, Yu Yuan reached out and grasped the fierce blade that was originally forged for a great demon in his hand. Wisps of flesh and blood essence spread out from Gendo's hilt and entered his flesh and organs. Yu Yuan smiled faintly. Gendo, which he had spent a lot of effort to suppress before, had become unusually obedient after he woke up in the floating life realm. He knew that when he woke up temporarily in his first life, the 7 specks of blood souls inside Gendo had all sensed it. They must have smelled the invincible aura that made them tremble. Therefore, Gendo became obedient. When he fought against the foreign races in the floating life realm, he felt that Gendo was much easier to wield. But this time, he felt even better when he held the hilt again in the alien battlefield. Gendo seemed to have gradually become a part of his body, an extension of his limbs. He could perform all kinds of exquisite saber techniques with a wisp of his mind. Most of the time, he didn't need to use extra strength. When Gendo faced a weaker enemy, he could easily kill them with his own strength. For example, just now. Only when he encountered an expert who was as strong as him would Gendo desire the rich blood energy in his body. Then, he and Gendo would work together to face an opponent who was as strong as him. Perhaps, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. He felt that the most suitable body for this Gendo, the one that could unleash the full power of the Gendo, wasn't his true body. Instead, it was the yang spirit body that would eventually be condensed. His yang spirit was refined bit by the life altar and the blood crystal of the great demonic god Grek. With the yang spirit physique controlling the Gendo blood prison, it would definitely be able to unleash its greatest power. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but secretly look forward to it. After that, he cultivated the 9 lights heavenly wheel on the sun fragment for a while. It was only when the spirit energy of the Golden Hall microcosm was about to overflow that he reluctantly left the meteor that didn't have much energy left. He carried Chen Qinghuang on his back again and soared into the famous alien battlefield. Countless meteors filled the dark forest star system. To avoid trouble, Yu Yuan released a wisp of blood energy whenever he encountered a weak foreign race and activated the brutal aura of Gendo blood prison to display Gendo's terrifying aura. The benefit of this was that the weak clansmen of the fire lizard race, silver scale race, and moonlight people would immediately avoid him. One day, carrying Chen Qinghuang on his back, he saw a team of dark spirit race. Most of the dark spirit clansmen were rank 8 bloodline experts. Moreover, the dark spirit clansmen were dressed in luxurious clothes and had exquisite tools. He was prepared to fight. However, the female leader of the dark spirit clan's troop stopped at a distance, bowing to Shi Yen from the other side of the asteroids with different sizes. Before he could respond, the dark spirit race team took the initiative to move away from him. Yu Yuan went blank for a moment. After pondering for a while, he guessed that the dark spirits must have learned that he and the immortal bird, who had taken the human form, had entered the most famous alien battlefield after leaving the domain of illusion. They must have recognized him. That was why they avoided him. Did they leave because I'm from the Shunhun sect, or because they know that she is with me? How will the dark spirit race react if they learn that she is in the dark forest star system? Don't tell me. They are silently waiting for the arrival of the 10th level experts? Yu Yuan frowned and pondered. He didn't encounter any more outsiders in the following days. One day, when he approached a meteor full of raging supernatural abilities and howling gales, he seemed to hear a vague cry. The cry was mixed with the fierce gales. It was hard to tell whether it was an illusion or not. However, he still carried Chen Qinghuang on his back and landed on the grayish-brown meteor that was full of holes. Swoosh! Swoosh swoosh! Translucent, icy chains flew out of the holes like snakes. They were surrounded by cold soul energy and suddenly wrapped around his ankles and thighs. He snorted and swung Gendo's blood prison, cutting the translucent ice chains with blood-colored blades of lightning. When he channeled the 9 lights heavenly wheel, and the blazing flame energy condensed into 9 balls of light, burning and flying towards those holes, he heard a clear cry. The primal Yang sect. An unreasonable force erupted from the meteor under his feet and sucked him, Gendo's blood prison, and Chen Qinghuang into a hole. Then they entered the world inside the meteor. Piles of white bones and translucent ice chains flowed like ice snakes in a cold river inside a dark, damp, enormous cave. A man with a face covered in dirt sat at the end of the cave. His age and appearance couldn't be seen. The man was obviously a Yang spirit body. He was wrapped in a gray robe that was covered in dirt, and his eyes flashed with hatred. He stared at Qin Lai coldly like a poisonous snake. Another primal Yang sect junior. Did the primal Yang sect cultivators become so active in the domain of dark forest recently because of Su Jingyao's first trip to outer space? He laughed viciously and didn't hide his hatred for the primal Yang sect in the slightest. There were a few pieces of clothing among the outsider skeletons next to him. It was obvious that they were from the primal Yang sect. It seemed that some primal Yang sect cultivators had been killed by him. Who are you? Why do you have such a strong opinion of the primal Yang sect? After Yu Yuan came down and saw the situation in front of him, he no longer used the 9 lights heavenly wheel. He only held the demon blade blood prison and silently circulated the fiend body refinement art. The fiend demon sect. The man was surprised. His eyes were filled with nostalgia. If I'm not mistaken, the fiend demon sect should have been uprooted in Howren, right? His hostility vanished in an instant. I killed a primal Yang sect cultivator not long ago. From him, I learned that the one who practices the fiend body refining art and wields the fiend demon cauldron in the Howren world is a kid named Yu Yuan. Are you that Yu Yuan? That's me. Who are you? Why do you hate the primal Yang sect so much? Yu Yuan asked curiously. I'm a cultivator of the ghost spirit sect, the man said with a pale expression. The ghost spirit sect? Yu Yuan looked confused. Our sect isn't as famous as the fiend demon sect. Back on the tranquil continent, we were a third-rate sect that was even weaker than the voodoo school and the Guefu school. The man's voice was deep. From its formation to its destruction, the ghost spirit sect never produced a Freedom Realm cultivator. I should have been the one with the greatest hope of reaching the Freedom Realm and helping the ghost spirit sect take a big step forward. What a pity! While I was fighting in the Outer Realms, the ghost spirit sect was actually destroyed in the civil war in Howren. The Primal Yang sect destroyed the ghost spirit sect, and my true form, which was hidden in the sect's forbidden land, was also killed. The man smiled bitterly. Without my true form, my Yang spirit body had no home to return to, and my path of cultivation was cut off. I couldn't go back. I could only wander the outer realms like a lonely ghost. Day after day, year after year, I struggled at death's door. If I ran into a Primal Yang sect cultivator, I was confident that I could kill them. I didn't let a single one go. Chapter 12:37. In the cave, where cold winds howled, white bones could be seen everywhere, and a crystal-clear ice mountain with a river flowing slowly. Yen Xiang, the surviving elder of the ghost spirit sect, was filled with grief and indignation as he told Yu Yuan about the forgotten past that had happened in Howren. As long as human cultivators still had their fleshly bodies, even if their Yang spirits were destroyed in the Starry River, they could still be rebuilt. After Xie Bin's Yang spirit had exploded, his remaining soul had merged with the Ice Thunder Seal. Later, with Yu Yuan's help, wisps of it had been separated from him and gathered in his sea of awareness, where they had been nurtured. Not long after gathering enough spiritual materials, he once again refined the Sun Spirit. Now, Xiebin had returned to outer space with greater battle prowess and cultivation base than before. He had even revisited his old haunts and come to the famous battlefield in front of him. High sects like the Xuantianzong sect, the Primal Yang sect, and the Sword sect would leave their heavenly soul inscriptions in their true bodies before their Yang spirits traveled to the Starry River. Su Jingyao was one of them. Even if his Yang spirit body had died in the domain of illusions, the heavenly soul inscriptions in his body could still be ignited by the rare spiritual materials of the Primal Yang sect and slowly grow stronger. Even if Su Jingyao's Yang spirit was destroyed in the outside world, his true body in Howren would only fall back to the soul wander stage. Given time, when he had overcome his inner demons and obstacles, he would be able to refine a new Yang spirit. However, if it wasn't his Yang spirit body that had been destroyed, but his true body, then it would be uncertain. When Yen Xiang had been fighting in outer space, he had accidentally been trapped in a forbidden area of the outsiders. He had spent a long time trying to break free. When he had finally come out, he had learned that the Ghost Spirit sect had been destroyed by the Primal Yang sect of the Tianyuan continent because of the civil war in Howren. 2 of his senior martial brothers had died in front of his home. Even his true body, which he had left in the Ghost Spirit sect, had been reduced to ashes after a fierce battle with the Primal Yang sect. After becoming a wandering ghost, he learned of the massacre that took place in Howren Major World and realized that he had no hope of reaching the Freedom Realm in his entire life. That was why he wandered to the Jilin Star Domain and lived in this cave. He almost couldn't find the meaning of life anymore. Sabotaging the Primal Yang sect's plans and killing Primal Yang sect cultivators had become one of the few things he had fun doing in the domain of Dark Forest. The overthrow of the Fiend Demon sect was quite similar to that of the Ghost Spirit sect. Both sects had suffered the same fate. Because of this, when he realized that Yu Yuan, who practiced the fiend body refining art, wasn't a cultivator of the Primal Yang sect, he felt sympathy for him and didn't try to kill him again. Yu Yuan observed the cave as he listened to him vent about the Primal Yang sect. His gaze lingered on the stream shrouded in cold mist for the longest time. Before the domain of Dark Forest was destroyed, there were also realms that were full of life. This meteor I found must have belonged to a strange heaven and earth that was similar to the frigid insect's realm. After the domain of dark forest exploded, the frost meridian was torn into pieces. Most of the frost meridian must have been taken by the frigid Een sect or other cultivators who practiced the same incantations as the frigid Een sect. I only got a small piece to nourish my yang spirit body and continue to practice our ghost spirit sect's secret incantations. Over the years, I've killed a few uninvited guests from the frigid Een sect. As soon as they came in, they yelled that I was a remnant of the ghost spirit sect and attacked me first. Yen Ziang dipped his hand into the icy river water and wiped the dirt off his face. With a cold smile, he said, "Remnant of the ghost spirit sect? Before the ghost spirit sect was destroyed, we were a powerful sect. We answered the summons of the Devil's Palace and the Goblin Temple and came to the Starry River to kill enemies. Now that the ghost spirit sect is gone and I'm only left with a yang spirit body, they actually called me a remnant of the ghost spirit sect?" He carefully cleaned the dirt off his face, revealing a rather handsome, sparkling face. If this person's yang spirit appearance was the same as his true body, then he should be a handsome man. "Oh, the last primal yang sect disciple I killed also called you a remnant of the evil demon sect," Yen Ziang said with a smile. Whoosh! He casually tossed a dark red mustard bracelet to Yu Yuan's feet. "There are some things in there that might be helpful to you. It's fate that we met here. I hope you won't expose me or say anything about me after you leave." Yu Yuan was somewhat surprised. He fiddled with the tip of Gendo's blood prison, and the bracelet suddenly flew out. Holding the bracelet, Yu Yuan sent a wisp of his soul awareness into it. Immediately, he saw a large number of fire-attributed spirit stones, a few spiritual tools, medicinal pills, and a few other small items inside. "I'm not a member of the Primal Yang sect, and I don't need those incantations," Yen Ziang said as he sat in the cold river. Yen Ziang sat upright in the cold river water. "The pills inside are effective for bodies with flesh and blood. A yang spirit body like mine can't absorb and refine them either. Over the years, the only human cultivators I've killed were from the Primal Yang sect and a few from the frigid Een sect. I can use some of the frigid Een sect's items, but the Primal Yang sect's items are really useless." Perhaps it was because he hadn't talked to anyone for a long time, but Yen Ziang was very patient. He even seemed a bit long-winded as he talked non-stop. "The girl on your back is so beautiful." Yen Ziang's tone was full of envy as he concluded with this sentence. Because of these words, Yu Yuan was convinced that this Yen Ziang didn't know much about him. Yen Ziang didn't seem to know about Chen Qinghuang's existence, nor did he seem to know that Nye Tian had been the medicine god in his previous life. This meant that the last Primal Yang sect cultivator he had killed hadn't returned to Hauran for a long time. Perhaps, like him, he had stayed in some place for too long, and news of him had lagged behind. "How did you hear about Su Jingyao?" Yu Yuan asked curiously. "Well, I overheard some cultivators from other sects talking when they passed by this place." Yen Ziang looked slightly embarrassed. "If I ran into Su Jingyao here, I wouldn't attack him, because I probably wouldn't be a match for him. Su Jingyao has a divine tool in his hand. Even if he had just condensed his yang spirit, I wouldn't dare to act rashly." Pausing for a moment, he said frankly, "Being here is equivalent to a kind of fake Dao unification. Because I don't have a real body, I'm using my yang spirit to connect with this meteorite, which allows my combat strength to increase to a certain extent when I'm inside this meteorite and nearby. Once I run into a true Freedom Realm cultivator, I won't be a match for him. If he's an ordinary yang spirit, I'll have a good chance of winning. Of course Su Jingyao isn't an ordinary yang spirit." He went on with another long speech. "Fake Dao integration, fake Freedom Realm." Yu Yuan frowned slightly. He withdrew his soul will from the mustard seed bracelet, pondered for a moment and said, "Do you know the Shenhun sect?" "The Shenhun sect?" Yen Ziang looked confused. "Haven't they been exploring the border of the universe for a long time?" As soon as he said this, Yu Yuan understood. Since you're a Dao integration expert, you should be able to control this meteor and move around the domain of Monglin, right? Of course. Yan Ziang nodded. Are you interested in giving me a ride? Yu Yuan smiled faintly. Don't worry, I won't let you work for nothing. You don't have a true body, and only have this yang spirit left. If you want to continue cultivating and make new progress, there's actually another way. What way? Yan Ziang asked in surprise. Give up everything you have now and reincarnate. Bai Gu's figure appeared in Yu Yuan's mind. A supreme ghost god has been born in the land of terror, and he's a ghost god. If you're willing, I can ask him to help you. With the source of the Yin meridians in the land of terror, you can live again. Will that really work? Yan Ziang didn't quite believe it. I'm sure it will work. Yu Yuan nodded. Looking at the chilly river, he said, also, you may need to re-understand the new situation in outer space. Howren, led by the three great sects, the Devil's Palace, and the Goblin Temple, is no longer the absolute overlord. Howren has been conquered by the foreign races? Yan Ziang was shocked. No, the Shenhun sect has returned, Yu Yuan said. Chapter 1238. A corner of the Jilin star field. A shrunken piece of land showed the layout of the Star Ash Sea region, and the sea region took up most of the area. The azure blue sea was dotted with islands scattered all over the place. The island where the Yin Corpse King was made into many burial grounds by him, and the entire island was filled with Yin energy. In every burial ground, there were corpse slaves sleeping. With a thought, those corpse slaves would sit up and charge for him. At this moment, the Yin Corpse King was looking at another island in the distance. On that island, Lin Zhuyun, who was dressed in a simple green robe, was sitting in front of a glacier on the island. Beside her, not long ago, a yang spirit body of the cold Yin sect had been shattered. After the unlucky yang spirit of the cold Yin sect was killed by Lin Zhuyun, the yang spirit fragments were merging into the island. On the ice mountain in front of Lin Zhuyun, on the ice rock that was as smooth as a mirror, beams of silver-white light were flying like dragons and snakes, carving something on the ice rock. Not long after, the figure of a man with a blurry face appeared on the ice rock. However, just as the man's face was about to become clear, a cold light appeared in Lin Zhuyun's eyes. Poof! The image of the man that was forcefully carved out by her cold soul instantly exploded. After Lin Zhuyun made some adjustments, her expression became focused again. She once again refined soul power visible to the naked eye and continued to draw on the ice rock. Every time, before the man's face was formed, his figure would be mercilessly erased by Lin Zhuyun. The Yin Corpse King was already used to this. He, who had Freedom Realm cultivation, had to listen to Lin Zhuyun because of the Primal Chaos Kuan's orders. Before the Battle of Thousand Bird World erupted, the Primal Chaos Kuan asked for Lin Zhuyun and took the two of them away. Lin Zhuyun, who almost died, seemed to have gained the recognition of the Primal Chaos Kuan and started to cultivate her. Not only did the Primal Chaos Kuan help Lin Zhuyun refine her yang spirit body and cleanse the heavenly demon filth in her body, it also allowed Lin Zhuyun to dissolve the heavenly demon soul that wanted to possess her, causing her battle strength to increase greatly. Then, the Primal Chaos Kuan brought them to the foreign battlefield and asked him to cooperate with Lin Zhuyun to collect extremely cold items here and merge them into the gradually forming glacier. It was as if he wanted to create an alternative Dao integration ground for Lin Zhuyun to prepare for her breakthrough into the Freedom Realm. Over the past few days, Lin Zhuyun had been collecting cold veins, killing cold attribute beasts and great cultivators who cultivated extreme cold spirit arts at the edge of the Dark Forest star system. The Yin Corpse King didn't know what was going on with the iceberg, but it was able to attract such strange beasts and great cultivators to come over, sending them to their deaths one after another. Have you heard of the ghost spirit sect? Suddenly, Lin Zhuyun, who had not spoken for a long time, turned to look at him. The Corpse King that was a level higher couldn't help but feel a chill. He seriously thought about it and replied, I've heard of it. This sect ceased to exist a long time ago within our vast sea sect. Well, like many low-level sects, the Ghost Spirit sect died in the civil war in Howran. In the eyes of the five supreme powers, a sect that has never produced a Freedom Realm cultivator is actually dispensable. Just now, the dead man of the Cold Een sect revealed a piece of news. He said that somewhere in the Dark Forest star system, there was a surviving cultivator of the Ghost Spirit sect. That person also occupied an extremely cold treasure land. Lin Zhiyun's expression was cold as she ordered bluntly, release some corpse demons and search the surroundings. The Corpse King obediently agreed. After a thought appeared in his mind, corpse demons broke out of the ground one after another. Most of these corpse demons were of foreign races. Their bodies were cold and surrounded by dense corpse energy. They flew out stiffly and floated in all directions like fireflies. On the other side of the Dark Forest star system, Qi Yunhong, who had broken through to the middle stage of the Sun Spirit realm, was wearing the red agate necklace of old woman Qiao Yuling. His body was immersed in a whirlpool of lightning and thunder. He was using crimson lightning to cleanse his Sun Spirit body. He grimaced and roared crazily, looking like he was in so much pain that he wanted to die. However, there was a strange look of excitement in his eyes. In outer space, the old woman who created the Thunder Slaughter sect smiled and nodded repeatedly. This kid should be a member of our Thunder Slaughter sect. The necklace around Qi Yunhong's neck occasionally shot out a terrifying light into Qi Yunhong's mind. The crazed excitement in the eyes of this madman, who had long been regarded as an evil demon by Hao Ming's inner circle, became even more intense. Every time he breathed, it seemed as if tiny lightning dragons were going in and out of his nostrils. Granny, when can I enter the late stage of the Sun Spirit realm? He roared. Soon, soon. Qiao Yuling's face was full of smiles. The current world is the best time for our Thunder Scale sect to rise. The Thunder Scale sect has been in Howran for many years, but it hasn't been able to rise to the ranks of a greater sect. I have an ambition. I want us to surpass the two Thunder Scale sects in outer space and become another prosperous sect after the Red Devil School and the Stars and Luna sect. The Red Devil School and the Stars and Luna sect had both given birth to nascent divinities, and the status of the sects had instantly skyrocketed. Qiao Yuling had chosen to break away from the Thunder sect of Hao Sui and establish a brand new Thunder Tao sect in outer space. She had been there since the beginning so that one day, the Thunder Tao sect would transform into a sect that could be on par with the five supreme sects of Hao Sui. Then, the Thunder Scale sect would openly return to Howran, accept disciples, and bring the Thunder Scale sect to greater heights. You can definitely achieve it, Qi Yunhong flattered. Qiao Yuling smiled but didn't say anything. She just added fuel to the fire and poured more soul-tempering power from the red agate necklace into Qi Yunhong's mind. In the next moment, Qi Yunhong let out an even more ear-piercing howl. Yu Yuan suddenly felt his body become light. Yu Yuan, who was about to report the new situation in Howran and the new situation in outer space, suddenly showed a panicked expression on his calm face. He suddenly turned around. The Empress, who had been sleeping since he entered the dilapidated battleship, had unknowingly landed on the ground. She even gently squatted down and looked at the cold river. There were many sparkling cold crystals in the river that looked like cold snakes. Chen Qinghuang, who was lying on his side, still had a beautiful face that could turn people upside down. Yu Yuan, who was panicking, calmed down at first glance and said gently, "You're awake." On the other side, Yan Ziang was still in shock. He muttered, "Shenhun sect, the Shenhun sect has reappeared." He didn't notice the Empress at all. Chen Qinghuang's white lotus-like arm, which was surrounded by a strange luster, slowly moved towards the river that hid the cold vein. When she did this, the chilly gales inside and outside the cave suddenly became quiet. An oppressive aura suddenly covered this small world. Yan Xiang was shocked and shouted, "You!" Yu Yuan, who had a serious face, put a finger to his mouth and made a shushing gesture to him, telling him not to say anything. Yan Xiang didn't know what to do. Then he saw that the hard and cold stone walls of the cave he had stayed in for countless years were covered in dense and sparkling ice patterns. These patterns seemed to have been hidden for thousands of years and only appeared at this moment. The slowly flowing river suddenly became turbulent. The cold vein in the river burst out millions of tiny cold lights, as if it had intelligence and desperately wanted to leave this small world. Soul aura filled the air. Chen Qinghuang's eyes were indifferent. She slowly drew a circle with her hand that was in the river. Mysterious ripples spread out, and a mysterious suction force was generated. The soul aura hidden in the ice inside the cold vein madly gathered and crystallized. Yan Xiang and Yu Yuan were dumbfounded by this scene. Soon, a cold crystal the size of a walnut was formed in the river under her finger. The cold crystal was like a cage that sealed a cluster of surging demonic souls. The frigid heavenly devil. Yan Xiang was shocked. The expression on his face was as colorful as it could be. He had never dreamed that a frigid heavenly devil was hiding in this wondrous place where he thought he was faking the Tao integration. "I guess he's waiting for you to grow stronger so that he can possess and refine you when the time is right," Yu Yuan said thoughtfully. Yan Xing said in a trembling voice, "He's a devil god." Chapter 1239. Frigid heavenly devils were also known as ice devils or scorpion-tailed devils. They were a branch of the heavenly devils. When they were at their peak, they had produced a rank 10 great demon god. However, the frigid heavenly devils had long since lost their former glory. It had been too long since a great demon god had been born. Compared to the moon devils, who had almost gone extinct, the frigid heavenly devils were in a much better state. However, they couldn't compare to the blood devils, who were at their peak. In fact, they weren't even as good as the frigid heavenly devils, who were subordinate to the blood devils. A demon god with a rank 9 bloodline was already an important figure among the frigid heavenly devils. However, he was hiding in a cave filled with frigid aura. Furthermore, he had scattered his devil soul and merged it with the stone walls, frost veins, holes, and underground. This surprised Yu Yuan greatly. Shouldn't a demon god return to the clan and lead the extreme frost heavenly devil clan to prosperity? He's badly injured. What's left of his devil soul is too weak. Chen Qinghuang held the frost crystal between his jade-white fingers. His eyes were light green, as if they contained endless life force. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were filled with curiosity as she examined the devil soul inside the frost crystal. Yu Yuan was familiar with the frigid heavenly devil through Consort Han in the fiendish demon cauldron. He pondered for a moment and then said, "This meteor with frost veins should be where the frigid heavenly devil recuperated. But you..." He glanced at Yan Xiang, whose expression was stiff. "You were unknowingly affected by his devilish will. You killed the frigid Yin sect cultivators and the primal Yang sect cultivators, but you were actually helping him. Those who died had their Yang spirits destroyed, and their souls scattered in this treasured land of frigid coldness. As you know, the souls of human cultivators are the heavenly devil's delicacies. They died here, merged with this treasured land of frigid coldness, and had their souls devoured by the heavenly devil in secret to heal his wounds. It's also possible that he secretly helped you when you were fighting," Yu Yuan said slowly. Yan Xiang shuddered as he listened. After thinking about it carefully, he gradually realized that Yu Yuan's deduction should not be far from the truth. After he found this extremely cold treasured land, his hatred for the primordial Yang sect grew day by day. Finally, one day, he started to make his move. Whenever they were in danger while fighting against the Primal Yang sect and the Frigid Een sect, the powerful experts from the Primal Yang sect and the Frigid Een sect would somehow lose control of their souls, as if they were being invaded by an extremely cold evil will, causing their seas of awareness to freeze. Therefore, even those who were at the same cultivation level as him would be killed by him in an instant. He used to think that it was because he was compatible with this extremely cold treasure land. He used a fake Tao integration method to affect his opponent's sea of consciousness through the cold laws here. From the looks of it, the extreme cold heavenly devil must have secretly lent him a helping hand, allowing him to obtain the final victory. The other party was dead, and his soul was scattered in this cave. The extreme cold heavenly devil took the opportunity to consume it and recover its strength. A scene appeared in Yen Xiang's mind. One day, with his help, the extreme cold heavenly devil would regain all of its lost power. Then, it would enter the depths of his sea of consciousness and either devour his soul or take over his body. This is... Yen Xiang took a deep breath and turned to look at Chen Qinghuang, his face filled with uneasiness. Numerous question marks appeared in his eyes. A seriously injured 9th-grade demon god had been hiding in this cave for who knew how many years, but he knew nothing about it. How could he see through the beautiful woman on Yu Yuan's back? Furthermore, how could she so easily gather the scattered devil will of the extreme cold heavenly devil and seal it in a crystal? "She's my younger sister," Yu Yuan said with a smile. Chen Qinghuang glanced at him. Then, she flicked the cold crystal in her hand and sent it flying towards Yen Xiang, leaving a trail of icy light behind it. Yen Xiang didn't know what was going on. Seeing the cold crystal flying towards him, he hastily set up a secret spell formation. Soul power and cold power flew out of his hands and formed a mysterious area in front of his chest. Cold mist filled the area as his soul will condensed into clusters of cold souls. "The Ghost Spirit sect does have some tricks up their sleeves," Yu Yuan said softly. The spiritual incantations and secret magics Yen Xiang had cast were somewhat similar to controlling ghosts. Naturally, he had the most soul will of those clusters of cold souls. However, there were still some soul wills that didn't belong to him. Yen Xiang must have imprisoned and refined those soul wills in this body of his. During battle, those soul wills could combine with his power and turn into his offensive means. "To tell you the truth, I felt close to you because I knew you were from the Fiend Demon sect." While Yen Xiang was speaking, the crystal that sealed the frigid heavenly devil fell into the dense white mist around his chest. A fawning smile appeared on his face as he said, "The Ghost Spirit sect was destroyed after the Fiend Demon sect. I know that before the Fiend Demon sect disappeared, the Ghost Spirit sect, the Fiend Demon sect's subordinate sect." Fizz. Clusters of soul wills surged in the depths of the cold mist. Fine icy light visible to the naked eye formed a spell formation in the air. Astonishment appeared in Yu Yuan's eyes. The cold mist in front of Yen Xiang's chest, which he had created with his ice spiritual power, and the clusters of cold souls, vaguely gave off the same aura as the soul-split spell formation formed by the fiend demons. "Our Ghost Spirit sect also knows how to control ghosts," Yen Xiang said, minding his own business. A thoughtful expression appeared on Yu Yuan's face. If he had only heard Yen Xiang's words, he would have thought that Yen Xiang was deliberately trying to get close to him by implanting a connection between the Ghost Spirit sect and the Fiend Demon sect. However, the aura of the cold mist in his chest and the arrangement of the cold souls made him realize that Yen Xiang wasn't lying. The Ghost Spirit sect, which had been destroyed by the Primal Yang sect, probably had a deep connection with the Fiend Demon sect. This connection made Yu Yuan feel that Yen Xiang was much more pleasing to the eye when he looked at him again. "Why don't you study that cold crystal first? If you can't handle the frigid heavenly devil in it, I'll figure out a way to help you. Also, try to move this meteor that's wreathed in cold mist towards the birdman's domain," Yu Yuan said. The birdman's domain? Yan Xiang frowned. Yu Yuan, if this meteor stays still, no one will notice it if I make the strange howls disappear. However, once it moves, it will immediately become conspicuous. The outsiders and Howren cultivators in the domain of Dark Forest may have their eyes on it. Don't worry, Yu Yuan said calmly. Yan Xiang braced himself and said, All right then. At this moment, Yu Yuan stopped paying attention to him and walked to Chen Qinghuang's side. Standing side by side with her, he asked, How much do you remember? The Empress in front of him looked much younger than when they had first met. She looked to be about 18 or 19 years old, and exuded a youthful aura. However, in Yu Yuan's eyes, the Empress was illusory. Her soul thought, flesh aura, and spirit energy didn't exist. The Empress was right in front of him, but she didn't give off any aura that a living being should have. She was like a feather, a stone, or even air. He believed that if the Freedom Realm cultivators and Rank 9 foreign experts in the outside world released their senses, they would only be able to sense the Empress. The only people he could sense were him and Yan Xiang, but he couldn't sense the presence of the Empress. Under the flesh aura and soul thought of the experts in the outside world, the Empress was empty and empty. I just remembered something. Chen Qinghuang's voice was as calm as an ancient well. Yu Yuan felt that she was becoming more and more unfathomable. Should I send you to the birdman's domain? Yu Yuan asked probingly. Chen Qinghuang nodded slightly, but didn't say anything. Yu Yuan noticed that her gaze and attention seemed to be focused on the cold vein in the river. She seemed to be lost in thought, as if she was thinking about some obscure question. Seeing that she wasn't in the mood to talk, Yu Yuan had no choice but to stay silent with her. After an unknown period of time, she suddenly said, The girl from the Lin clan is also in this fragmented starry river. Lin Zhuyun? Yu Yuan was greatly shocked. Chen Qinghuang nodded again. Yu Yuan's heartstrings suddenly tightened. Of course, what made him uneasy wasn't his fiancée, who had repeatedly lost to him. It was the primal Chaos Koan. When Lin Zhuyun was in the Thousand Birds realm, the primal Chaos Koan had taken her away. Since she was in the Dark Forest domain, the primal Chaos Koan might be there as well. In the boundless universe, what Yu Yuan feared the most was the star behemoth that had been suppressed in the starry Ash Sea. When he thought of that brutal and cruel creature entering the alien battlefield, he felt that something was wrong. Is it coming for you? Yu Yuan suddenly said. Chapter 1240. Since ancient times, giant beasts of the starry sky had been able to kill each other and absorb the bloodlines of the other party. The Titanspinosaurus, which had dominated the universe, was one of the best, the supreme overlords of the giant beast. As an ancient giant beast of the starry sky, if the Chaos Koan appeared in this universe, it was very likely that it was not coming for him, but for the immortal bird. Even if the immortal bird, who had transformed into a human, had the strength of a demigod, it might not be a match for the Chaos Koan. This was the best time to kill the Chaos Koan, especially when the experts of the alien races, the Devil's Palace, the Goblin Temple, and the Sword Sect were entangled in the Dark Star Zone and had no time to deal with the immortal bird or the Chaos Koan. Yu Yuan naturally thought in this direction. Chen Qinghuang frowned, his eyes deep and dark. He seemed to be thinking about it seriously because of his words. After a while, the Empress sat down in a corner of the cave without saying a word. Strange changes were happening to her pale green eyes. One of his eyes turned from light green to pitch black and the other grayish-white. The power of destruction and death coexisted. Then, it suddenly changed again and continued to turn pale green. Yu Yuan shrewdly sensed that the three types of power that belonged to her were constantly switching and dispersing in secret, as if they were searching for something in her own way. Except for the Chaos Koan, what else could she care about in the vast Dark Star Zone? He shouldn't be here. About an hour later, Chen Qinghuang's face returned to its usual indifference, and he said this indifferently. Yu Yuan was secretly shocked. Could it be that her search for the Chaos Kun covered the entire dark star zone in such a short time? A vast star zone, mixed with many stars, suns, and moons, was boundless. Even though the Jilin star zone had exploded and turned into the famous alien battlefield, the area of the Milky Way that it occupied had not shrunk. How much of the Empress's combat strength had recovered? Could she search a part of the universe in a short time? I need to sleep to consolidate my memories. While Yu Yuan was still in a state of shock, Chen Qinghuang closed his eyes again. All of his aura instantly retracted, as if it had turned into nothingness. Yu Yuan nodded slightly. At the border between Dark Forest Star Zone and Silver Sand Star Zone, Yan Qiling was standing on a silvery white meteor with Yu Yi, who was wearing the armor of the evil demon Cauldron. At first glance, they could see millions of meteors filling the area of the Starry River. Is that the Dark Forest Star area? Yu Yi's eyes lit up. Yes, the most famous alien battlefield. Yan Qiling nodded with a smile. He waved his hand in the direction of the Silver Sand Star Domain and said, "We're lucky. Those Silver Scale clansmen happened to come to the Demon Abyss of Calamity to trade with us. The ferries in their star domain have been opened for us. That's why we can get there quickly. Is there any news about my master?" Yu Yi was concerned about this. Xie Bin, Rong Sun, and the others left the Shadow Illusion Star Zone with him. They communicated with the Tongtian Trading Company not long ago. Yes, he's in the Dark Forest Star Zone right now. Yan Qiling gave an affirmative answer. Yu Yi looked excited. Within a certain distance, I can establish a connection with his soul. As the Cauldron soul of the evil demon Cauldron, she had become one with the Cauldron. Once she got close to Yu Yuan somewhere in the Dark Forest Star Zone, she would be able to sense it. She instantly became expectant. I just don't know. What's the situation with him right now? Yan Qiling said worriedly. Not only him, but the Shenhun sect and the Tongtian Trading Company were also worried about Chen Qinghuang. The Shenhun sect and the Tongtian Trading Company were astonished after learning about the immortal bird's glorious exploits from outsider experts they were on good terms with. They were afraid that the immortal bird, who spread death and destruction, would kill all living beings in its vicinity and turn an entire starry river into a new domain of annihilation. No matter what happens to him, Master will be fine. Yu Yi was full of confidence. Yan Qiling thought for a moment and relaxed. That's true. Yu Yuan is no ordinary person. In the depths of a messy meteor, a meteor that wasn't large or special flew nimbly through the gaps between the meteors. It seemed to be driven by a force, and flew away with cold mist swirling around it. About a dozen kilometers away, the dark spirits, rock people, silver scales, and flame lizards were gathered on a gigantic crimson meteor. Most of these outsiders were at the 8th or 7th grade. They had formed a temporary team and had just killed 2 young gods of the heavenly evil sect. A meteor is flying through the sky. A brawny silver scale warrior let out a snort and said with a heavy hammer in his hand, "It must be a human cultivator who came from the Hauran tranquil continent to fish in troubled waters." Whoosh! He swung the mountainous hammer high into the air and smashed it down on the moving meteor. All of a sudden, ghost-like wails and wolf-like howls came from the inconspicuous meteor. Frigid gusts howled from the holes on the surface of the meteor. "Cultivators of the frigid dark sect!" the brawny rock people shouted, his voice filled with hatred. According to the legends, his hometown was in the domain of Dark Forest, which had been destroyed by a Freedom Realm cultivator of the frigid dark sect. Most of the rock people had gone extinct. Only a small number of them had been taken in by the silver scales in the domain of Silver Sand, and had started to make a living in the domain of Silver Sand. Therefore, he had always hated the cultivators of the frigid dark sect. Inside the meteor. "I told you that traveling on this meteor would attract the attention of others," Yan Ziang said with a bitter face. Yen Xiang's face was filled with bitterness. He hadn't refined the frigid heavenly devil in the crystal in his chest yet. Yu Yuan, they outnumber us. I think there are 7 level 8 bloodline warriors. He looked expectantly at the sleeping Chen Qinghuang. His meaning was clear. We're no match for them. You'd better wake your sister up and let her deal with them. It's all right. Just stay here. With great composure, Yu Yuan grabbed Gendo's blood prison and flew out of the meteor through one of the holes. In the blink of an eye, he was outside, where he saw a mountainous hammer that contained immense water power smashing down on the meteor he was on. He could feel a tsunami-like turbulence within the hammer, as if the entire sea had been merged with it. Silver scales. With a carefree smile, Yu Yuan grabbed Gendo and shot out of the meteor just as the hammer was about to hit the meteor. The 7 enormous balls of blood-colored light mixed with the countless blood-colored sparks and turned into a sea of blood that engulfed the iron hammer. In the sea of blood, Gendo seemed to have turned into a giant, bloodthirsty demon as he gnawed at the blood power of the silver scales on the hammer. Stop! The slender female dark spirit on the crimson meteor let out a panicked scream. Yu Yuan was surprised. It's her. Not long ago, while carrying Chen Qinghuang on his back, he had encountered a dark spirit team by chance. As their leader, she had bowed to them from afar and left. Who would have thought that they would meet again so coincidentally? Originally, Yu Yuan had intended to use Gendo's blood prison to devour the silver scales bloodline power within the hammer. However, because she had said, "Stop," he had let her go. After recovering his strength, Yu Yuan suppressed Gendo's greed and kicked the hammer. The hammer flew towards the place where the outsiders were gathered with even more terrifying momentum. Several warriors of the Silver Scale clan worked together to activate their bloodline talent and set up a water curtain in the air. Only then did they manage to catch the returning hammer and prevent it from causing a disaster. Who is he? The rash Silver Scale man asked in astonishment. Don't attack him. I'll talk to him. With a grim expression, the female dark spirit gave a few instructions before flying away by herself. Whoosh! Whoosh! With a thought, Yu Yuan had the blood souls return to Gendo. He stood on the meteor that had stopped howling and howling, waiting for the dark spirit girl to land. You know who I am? The girl asked with a smile. My race listens to Elder Mia. The female dark spirit introduced herself. No wonder. Yu Yuan nodded without putting on airs. How is she? Is Wenlu okay? The female dark spirit looked worried. Not so good. ***. Tomorrow morning, old trader is going to have a big physical examination. His stomach is going to be, so I won't be updating at noon. Chapter 1241. The woman of the dark spirit race was called Tai Qian. According to her, Kennard, the son of the forest, had died in the chaotic battle at Thousand Bird Realm. This caused the people in power of the dark spirit race to think that Mia was responsible. Kennard was the son of that patriarch. Although Mia was highly respected in the dark spirit race, she was far from being on par with that patriarch. Therefore, Mia's reputation and status in the dark spirit race started to weaken. Some of the families that used to be loyal to Mia chose to leave her, and the power she used to have was replaced by others. Wenlu, who came with her, also caused Mia a lot of trouble because of her identity as a mixed blood. In short, after parting at Thousand Bird Realm, Mia's superior status in the race no longer existed. After hearing Tai Qian's words, Yu Yuan pondered for a moment. He felt that with his current situation, and Chen Qinghuang, who was still unknown, he couldn't help Mia. Why are you in Mara Forest star system? Also, what was your attitude towards me and that person? He changed the topic. The moment he said this, Tai Qian looked uneasily at her feet and said in a small voice, That person is still here? Yu Yuan nodded softly. Tai Qian's face paled slightly as she hurriedly said, We are in Mara Forest star system to deal with the guests from the Tianyuan continent. As for you, I just received the news a while ago. The elder I listened to told me to try not to provoke you, and to avoid you if I accidentally encounter you. She turned around and pointed at the rock people, the silver scale race, and the fire lizard race on the meteor. Their leaders should have the same attitude, but they don't know who you are. Yu Yuan pondered for a moment before nodding slowly. Right now, Dark Star System had attracted the attention of many forces in the outer realms. A war with deep implications had broken out unstoppably. At this critical moment, the races that had killed the undying bird before probably didn't have the confidence to kill it again. Since they couldn't kill it, they might as well avoid it. It was a wise decision. I heard that the supreme expert of the Goblin Temple is paying attention to her with great interest, Tai Qian said. Yu Yuan was shocked. Goblin Temple? Yes, we've received some news that the strongest person in the Goblin Temple will have a battle of fate with her. This was one of the reasons why the peak experts of the various races hadn't gathered their forces to deal with her. Perhaps he wants to see her fight with that person from the Goblin Temple in the future, Taizi said. Yu Yuan's eyes were filled with thoughts. After asking Tai Qian, he learned that the situation in the Drag Illusion star area wasn't clear yet. Instead, the chief of the star race had gathered the experts of the star race to hunt down Zhu Huan, Fu Xianwen, Wei Zhua, and the others. Shi Yan suddenly felt a little gloating. Oh right, we've also received news that outsiders with rich corpse auras have also appeared in the domain of Dark Forest. That kind of variant race seems to be an evil demon from Howren. The variant race has also appeared in Thousand Bird Boundary before. Tai Qian slapped her forehead and said, It's called Een Corpse, Corpse Slave, pay attention. Thank you for your information. Yu Yuan nodded. Good luck. Tai Qian bowed and flew away from the meteor. Soon, she returned to the giant crimson meteor. A group of silver scale race and rock people immediately surrounded her and asked her what was going on. Just pretend that we didn't see him. He's someone we can't afford to offend. Tai Qian sighed. Your leader also said that if we accidentally encountered him, we should avoid him as much as possible. Hearing this, the questioning foreign warriors felt their knees go weak. Their expressions were filled with fear as they looked at the rock. It was as if they were looking at the legendary god of death that was about to walk out of it. Inside the cave, Yan Xiang's face was filled with admiration as he looked at Yu Yuan, who had returned safely. Did that dark spirit girl know you? I can see that she seems to respect you a lot. There was no fierce battle above, so the foreign races that had gathered quietly retreated. Since he had faked the Tao integration, he could see the surroundings through the holes on the surface of the meteor. Because of this, he noticed that the foreign races led by Tai Qian had looked deeply at the meteor they were on with fear in their eyes before they left. Of course, they weren't afraid of him. The heavenly devil of extreme frost hasn't erased his soul fragment? Yu Yuan asked curiously. The soul rend in Yan Xiang's chest made of frost mist wasn't very powerful because it wasn't driven by many fiend devils. Yu Yuan could see that the heavenly devil of extreme frost soul had only shrunk a little inside the frost crystal. The soul imprint at the core of the crystal was still there. It's not that simple. This guy is a devil god. Yan Xiang looked slightly dispirited. If it wasn't for your sister's help, I wouldn't have been able to trap him with my own power. Not to mention refining him bit by bit and turning his devil soul into my own. Yu Yuan rubbed his chin and suddenly asked, Can you communicate with him? If he's willing, I can. However, he knows what I want to do. That's why he hasn't shown any intention of communicating with me, Yan Xiang said. Actually, the situation in outer space and Howren is different from before. Yu Yuan walked over and looked at the frost mist. He suddenly said, If you don't mind, how about I talk to him? Talk? What's there to talk about? Yan Xiang was puzzled. Let's talk first. With a thought in her mind, Yu Yuan's Yin deity left her forehead and flew towards the cold mist. Watch out. The formations inside can tear apart souls. Yan Ziang was shocked. He was afraid that Yu Yuan, who didn't know the danger, would be torn apart by the soul rend he created and severely injured his Yin spirit. It's fine, Yu Yuan's true body said with a smile. Whoosh! His Yin spirit entered the frost mist and found the frost crystal. He focused his mind and stabbed it. In an instant, he arrived in the frost world inside the ice crystal and saw a strange-looking extreme frost heavenly devil. It was very old, with an illusory upper body and a scorpion tail lower body. It was a classic extreme frost heavenly devil. The white-haired extreme cold heavenly demon had a blurry face that resembled a ferocious ghost. His eyes were cold and gloomy. Let's talk. Yu Yuan's Yin spirit didn't look around in this small frost world. Do you know that the extreme frost heavenly devil clan has a small population and is no longer what it used to be? The old heavenly devil was cold and said nothing. The extreme frost heavenly devil clan is still on the prime devil clan side. If you had chosen the blood devil clan like the polar heavenly devil, I wouldn't have come. Yu Yuan looked calm and even smiled. Of course, there's another reason. I have fate with your clan. The old deep frost heavenly devil was still expressionless and cold. In Yu Yuan's eyes, the whole ice crystal world seemed to have been rebuilt after the upper half of his body was smashed. The extreme frost heavenly devil's aura was everywhere. He thought for a moment and knew that it was caused by the Empress's power. It seems that you don't trust me. Yu Yuan thought for a moment. His Yin spirit split a wisp of soul consciousness and changed it according to his will. Gradually, it turned into Consort Han's form. She was crystal clear and beautiful. Her temperament was like an iceberg, cold and elegant. He carefully sculpted Consort Han's face as he recalled it. The illusory Consort Han was like a reflection in water. Slowly, she took shape in this small frost world. Crack! Crack, crack! The old extreme frost heavenly devil, who hadn't said a word all this time, lost control of his icy scorpion tail and was afraid of hitting the ice rock. He came closer in panic and excitement. His eyes were fixed on the Consort Han that Yu Yuan had created out of thin air. He himself knew that it was an illusory figure. Yu Yuan's spirit was lifted. He thought that he had a chance. He. The old heavenly devil seemed to have not communicated with anyone for a long time. His voice was very incoherent and he couldn't say anything. Don't worry. We have plenty of time to talk, Yu Yuan said with a smile. Is she still alive? Chapter 1242. She's still alive. However, she's living in a different way. Seeing that the old heavenly devil knew Consort Han, Yu Yuan relaxed a lot. As he spoke, his Yin spirit in the form of a soul was still secretly sensing this place of extreme coldness. His soul consciousness spread out and suddenly touched many bloodlines that contained the power of extreme coldness. Slender beams of silver light filled the ice, rocks, and frozen rivers that could be seen with the eyes. The old heavenly devil's bloodline and soul consciousness were one with this world. There was no distinction between them. However, in Yu Yuan's senses, the bloodline laws that were branded with the mysteries of extreme coldness were not continuous and coherent. Some other power had seeped into the depths of the earth's ice, rocks, and frozen rivers, cutting the great Tao of extreme coldness into pieces, causing the flowing rivers of laws to be mixed with too many abilities. The auras of destruction and death were hidden and everywhere. Yu Yuan knew what was going on. When the Empress pulled out the old heavenly demon's refined physique, she had fused it with her own strength. She used the upper half of the old heavenly devil's body to create a translucent cage, condensing it into a piece of cold crystal and imprisoning the old heavenly devil, preventing him from breaking free. I should have thought of this. The old heavenly demon, who was half illusory and half real, had a blurry face that seemed to be filled with distress. I have failed in my duty. I was too incompetent to protect the two young ladies. Not only did he know Consort Han, if he wasn't lying, he also seemed to have the responsibility to protect Consort Han. I'll definitely meet her. From what you're saying, you once protected them, Yu Yuan said in surprise. Back then, a pair of sisters had entered Howren. As the younger sister, Consort Han was imprisoned in the Stardust Sea region. She should have been refined into a fiend devil in a special form. The other had always been in the depths of the Nine Hells' cold abyss and had secretly arrived just before the Chaos Kun was about to be born. That person had taken over Lin Zhuyun's body and used Lin Zhuyun as a vessel to enjoy a period of glory. But in the end, because of the Chaos Kun's change of mind, she became Lin Zhuyun's wedding dress. Lin Zhuyun countered and used her power and demonic soul to continuously increase her strength and realm. His sister had become one of the strongest fiend demons in the Fiend Demon Cauldron. Her elder sister had helped Lin Zhuyun. Our clan leader was killed by the demonic phoenix of the Goblin Temple. After that, our clan fell into turmoil. There was nothing new about it. The original elder of the clan had a conflict with the two young ladies when he asked for some keepsakes from the clan. I escorted them to escape, but I suffered heavy injuries and ended up like this. Ladies, I heard that the demonic phoenix had taken our clan's holy relic back to Howren as a trophy. That's why I've been plotting to sneak into Howren and search for the lost holy relic. They chose to sneak into Howren through a mysterious entrance to the frigid abyss and used their advantage as heavenly devils. The old heavenly devil was very pessimistic and helpless. He sighed and shook his head. Yu Yuan had already heard about this when he was in the body of the moon-devouring ape. Consort Han's ancestor, the clan leader of the heavenly devils, and the old clan leader of the blood devils had worked together to kill the moon-devouring ape and devour the demon god's flesh and soul. The demonic phoenix of the Goblin Temple had killed the great demon god of the heavenly devils out of revenge. After that, the heavenly devil of extreme coldness had been unable to recover from the setback. How whimsical and ignorant! After I was injured for the last time, I knew that I couldn't continue to wait for them, so I led the pursuers to the domain of Dark Forest. I ended up like this. But later, I heard that the two of them seemed to have successfully entered Howren. So what if they've entered? They'll either die or become prisoners. What other way out is there? At this point, he paused, as if he was looking at them with cold eyes. Who imprisoned them? Isn't it more painful to live than to die? The bone-piercing cold power that belonged to him tried to break free from the Empress's seal. He wanted to turn his anger into an ice storm and make Yu Yuan pay the price. However, as he rashly exerted his power, the lower half of his body that looked like a scorpion tail suddenly cracked. The old heavenly devil immediately calmed down. How about this? Yu Yuan said with a smile. I'll find you another place to recuperate. When she reunites with me, I'll have her come to see you. The old heavenly devil was stunned. In the cave, Yu Yuan's true form summoned the dragon-slaying platform from the small world inside his acupoints. The rectangular dragon-slaying platform looked like a muddy jade with extraordinary magical light flowing around it. However, it seemed to be surrounded by smoke and clouds, making it impossible to see what was inside. However, anyone who saw it would know that it was extraordinary. This thing? Yan Ziang was stunned. Yu Yuan smiled. As expected, you don't know enough about me. If Yan Ziang didn't know about the dragon-slaying platform, it meant that the information she received about him was very outdated. Perhaps it was because he controlled the fiendish demon cauldron and was related to the fiendish demon sect that Yan Ziang paid special attention to him. However, Yan Ziang didn't know what he had done before leaving the Howren Great World. Don't be in a hurry to refine it. This frigid heavenly devil is somewhat related to me. I'll deal with it. Without further explanation, Yu Yuan, whose true form was holding the dragon-slaying platform, glanced at Chen Qinghuang from the corner of his eyes. He was actually afraid that the Empress would suddenly wake up and swallow the dragon-slaying platform. Chen Qinghuang's breathing was even. There was nothing wrong with it. Yu Yuan, who let out a sigh of relief, connected his Yin spirit with his true form. His true form reached out, grabbed the cold crystal, and established a connection with his Yin spirit. Then, he grasped the cold crystal, found the right direction, and pressed it into the other side of the dragon-slaying platform. The cold crystal with his Yin spirit easily reached the dragon-slaying platform, where the giant frost dragon was buried. Crack! Crack! The palm-sized cold crystal immediately began to crack open in this strange world that concubine Han had once stayed in and used to advance in her cultivation. Within the cold crystal, Yu Yuan's Yin spirit could clearly see this small world. Mountains crumbled and the ground cracked. Countless ice rocks and solid ice exploded like ice balls. The old heavenly devil watched in fear. The supernatural ability that restrained him was crushed by the many laws of the great Tao. His devil soul instinctively felt fear. However, it didn't last long. The small cold crystal was destroyed by the laws of another small world in the dragon-slaying platform. The old heavenly demon tried to gather the ice and ice shards that filled the sky when they fell to the ground while trembling with fear. During this process, he kept an eye on Yu Yuan's Yin spirit to see if Yu Yuan had any reaction. Yu Yuan's Yin spirit smiled encouragingly. He was relieved. Outside, Yu Yuan, who was holding the dragon-slaying platform and sensing the great changes inside, was also paying attention to Chen Qinghuang's every move. When the cold crystal was crushed, the power that originally existed in the dragon-slaying platform inevitably clashed with the power of the Empress. He knew that Chen Qinghuang must have sensed it when he was asleep. He was anxious because he also wanted to test the Empress. He wanted to see if she would lose control when facing the dragon beheading platform that had left his meridians and the most delicious, divine pills and spiritual medicines. Would she really turn into the undying bird and devour the power of the dragon beheading platform? The Empress's long eyelashes trembled slightly, as if she had sensed something. Yu Yuan held his breath. He waited for a while and prepared to run. He found that the Empress gradually calmed down and went back to sleep. She showed no signs of waking up. After what seemed like an eternity, Yu Yuan let out a sigh of relief and threw the dragon-slaying platform back into his acupoints. Chapter 1243. In the heart of the domain of dark forest. A meteor that was 100 times larger than the others floated quietly like a small heaven and earth. Beside it were hundreds of smaller meteors that were the same color as it. The smaller meteors seemed to have been separated from it, and were now surrounding it like stars surrounding the moon. In this fragmented starry river, meteors of this scale were indeed rare and wondrous. "We're here." With the help of the Heaven Void Mirror, Pei Yuling stopped on a smaller meteor and threw Chu Yao to the side. With a grim expression, she looked down at the enormous meteor below and said, "Chu Yao, stay here and don't leave." Chu Yao nodded as he looked down curiously at the huge meteor below. Numerous dead trees could be seen on the dark brown earth. They were so withered that it would take several people to wrap their arms around them. However, they could be seen everywhere. Chu Yao could imagine that this meteor must have been covered in luxuriant trees in ancient times. This must be the case for the dark spirit's domain as well, Chu Yao thought to himself. Eyes narrowed, he looked around again, and discovered that the fleshless skeletons of numerous humans, spirit beasts, outsider experts, and powerful demons were also scattered among the withered trees. There were also some ruined buildings that had been built in the style of the Dark Spirit clan. However, just by looking at the meteor from afar, it emitted a deathly still, oppressive, and gloomy aura that caused one's mind to be oppressed. Even with Chu Yao's current cultivation base, he couldn't help but see the traces on the meteor. bloody and cruel battles appeared in his mind. After gazing at it for a while, he felt a shadow cast over his heart. His awareness became somewhat cloudy, as if it had been tainted by invisible evil. It used to be the most prosperous realm in the domain of dark forest. But now not everyone dares to set foot in it. With these words, Pei Yuling grasped the heaven-void mirror tightly and landed lightly on the enormous meteor below. Then, like water dissolving into the sea, Pei Yuling slowly disappeared under Chu Yao's nose. She disappeared into the meteor. Under the ground, an extremely skinny dark spirit elder sat in the lotus position with disheveled hair. His hair was strangely connected to the roots of a huge tree that hung down from above. The roots of the giant tree were clearly withered, but they were inconceivably large. The dark spirit old man's hair was like a small strand of root hair hanging down from a dead tree. Suddenly, the old man, who seemed to have died many years ago, opened his eyes. In the instant that he opened his eyes, it was as if two balls of ghostly green flames had been ignited in this underground space. His hair, which was connected to the roots of the giant tree, instantly regained its luster. He seemed to be absorbing nutrients from the roots of the giant tree to maintain his weak life force. The only reason he was able to survive until now was because of the roots of the giant tree. You were guided here by the god of the origin realm? Looking at Pei Yuling, who had suddenly appeared, his dark green eyes flashed with madness and anticipation. Hey! Human, it was actually a human. From the looks of it, the god of the origin realm's influence has already spread to the Howren realm, as expected of the supreme god of the origin realm. I knew this day would come. Pei Yuling held the heaven-void mirror and looked at the deranged dark spirit old man. He couldn't help but feel apprehensive. After all, he had long since learned that the old man in front of him was the former ruler of the domain of dark spirit, and the first batch of outsider experts to submit to the god of the origin realm. The old man had played an important role in the destruction of the domain of dark spirit and turning it into the most famous otherworldly battlefield. It could even be said that if it weren't for this old man, the domain of dark spirit would still be the domain of dark spirit, and it would still be in good order and full of vitality. The old man's ambition had caused a heaven-shaking change in the domain of dark spirit and turned it into what it was today. Pei Yuling stopped his wild thoughts and said with a calm expression, "I'm under orders to cooperate with you. Are you ready?" The old man asked with a strange smile. "I'm ready," Pei Yuling said seriously. "All right, let's begin." Yan Qiling and Yu Yi traveled aimlessly through the domain of dark spirit with a lazy expression on their faces. Along the way, whenever he sensed outsiders or cultivators from the vast sea, he would pull Yu Yi away from them and avoid any contact with them. Their plan was to find Yu Yuan first before anything else. As the soul of the cauldron, Yu Yi could sense her master's presence within a certain range. Therefore, theoretically speaking, as long as he and Yu Yi could move around in a wide enough area, and as long as Yu Yuan was there, they would eventually meet up with Yu Yuan. Swoosh! Yan Qiling suddenly stopped on a meteor that was only big enough for a dozen people to land on. Yu Yi also stopped and asked curiously, "What's wrong?" Yan Qiling didn't answer. His strange body started to ripple with glorious halos. Each and every one of them seemed to be connected to a different time and space. Yu Yi suddenly had the feeling that the man in front of her was traveling between different spaces. Moments later, Yan Qiling took a deep breath and looked in a direction with a grim expression. Not long ago, something appeared in the realm tunnel that connects the devil abyss of calamity and the forbidden land of the falling moons. I didn't expect that the domain of dark spirit, which has been reduced to an alien battlefield, would be noticed as well. What did you say? Yu Yi was puzzled. Yan Qiling shook his head and frowned. You won't understand even if I tell you. Something must be wrong. I just don't know if that thing appeared by chance or on purpose. If it's on purpose, first in that realm tunnel and now in the domain of dark spirit. The domain of dark spirit, Yan Qiling suddenly exclaimed. He suddenly remembered that Zhou Yu from the Tongtian Trading Company had told him about the domain of dark spirit before he had decided to go to the alien battlefield through the domain of silver sand. It can't be that coincidental, can it? Yan Qiling's lips were dry. In a damp, cold cave, Yu Yuan's nether spirit had returned to its original position, and the dragon beheading platform had been thrown back into the small world in his acupoints. He explained the complicated situation to Yan Xiang casually. He told Yan Xiang that the frigid heavenly devils were on the same side as the leading heavenly devils in the outer realms. Meanwhile, the Shenhun sect and the Tongtian Trading Company, the two Howren forces, had won the approval of some powerful races in the outer realms with their new ideas, and were making progress. Yan Xiang was shocked to hear this. After Yu Yuan explained the new situation between the outer realms and the Howren, he signaled Yan Xiang to follow his orders and drive this treasured land of frigid coldness towards the birdman's domain. Yan Xing obeyed obediently and saw hope to revive the ghost spirit sect. He thought that even if he, Yan Xiang, couldn't rely on the ghost god in the land of terror to be reborn, he could use his identity as a preacher to recruit disciples in the Howren and revive this destroyed sect. As long as the ghost spirit sect could be reborn, he would have no regrets. He wouldn't feel ashamed to face his ancestors and his sect. On this day, Yan Xiang's figure moved, and he suddenly stood up. He frowned and said, "An outsider has come to our territory." Yu Yuan, whose Yin spirit was roaming around the dragon-slaying platform, secretly spying on the extreme frost heavenly devil, opened her eyes when she heard this. "It's the so-called Yin corpse," Yan Xiang said with certainty. Yin corpse. Yu Yuan shivered. The first thing he thought of was that he had encountered the Yin corpse king and Lin Zhuyun. His face darkened, and he immediately prepared for battle. "It's just a Yin corpse." Yan Xiang snorted in disdain. "It's just an inanimate object. What can you feel when it's moving?" "It can't find us?" Yu Yuan asked curiously. "Of course it can't." Yan Xiang was very confident. Yin corpses aren't foreign races. They won't find anything unusual just because of the movement of the meteor. Things without intelligence only know how to search for life. If they can't feel life, they won't find anything unusual. Don't worry, the Yin corpse will only think it's a moving boulder. Yu Yuan nodded. He thought that since the Yin corpse had appeared, it meant that the Yin corpse king and Lin Zhuyun weren't too far away. Should he touch it? Chapter 1244. In the end, Yu Yuan didn't act rashly. This was because he wasn't sure if the Chaos Kuan was in the Dark Forest star zone. He wasn't sure if the giant star beast could descend instantly. However, he wasn't afraid of Lin Zhuyun and the Yin Corpse King. The Chaos Kuan was different. Therefore, he chose to be calm and listen to Yan Xiang. He didn't do anything unnecessary. He didn't have to wait for long, he left. Yan Xiang didn't know the inside story and looked calm. That Yin corpse is just an extension of the controller's soul. Don't worry, we just have to be careful. He didn't come here personally, so he can't find anything. I've been able to survive in the Dark Forest star zone for so many years because I can hide my presence. Yu Yuan praised with a smile. A wisp of soul thought formed in another world inside the dragon-slaying platform. This wisp of soul thought was not a Yin spirit, so it could not communicate freely with the extreme cold heavenly devil in the form of a spirit. Could not fight, and it could not use any secret soul arts. It could only see the situation inside. The cold crystal cracked, and the remaining power of the Empress was crushed. The old heavenly devil was overjoyed. At this moment, The old heavenly devil was using the fragments of the cold crystal to secretly collect a portion of the cold dragon power of the level 9 and level 8 frost dragons and refine them into a demon body. There was more than one frost dragon in that small world. Other than the level 10 dragon god, there were also its descendant. The old heavenly devil could only secretly absorb the energy of the level 9 and level 8 frost dragons because of his serious injuries. As for the dragon god level frost dragon, he could only look at it greedily. He couldn't do anything. The old heavenly devil kept exclaiming as he muttered. He obviously guessed that he was in some strange object because he muttered the words dragon beheading platform, and then looked hesitant while collecting the cold energy. He must have seen that Yu Yuan didn't have any ill intentions, so he became bolder. Yu Yuan nodded secretly. Above a huge meteor, Chu Yao, who was known as the little god of medicine, had his head bowed as he pondered over the composition of a pill. He didn't continue to pay attention to his surroundings. All of a sudden, he smelled something unusual. Silver Scale Clan. An outsider with shiny scales and a thick corpse aura suddenly landed on the enormous meteor where Pei Yuling had disappeared with his empty eye socket. Chu Yao lowered his head to look down, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. In Chu Yao's eyes, the withered trees that were everywhere on the meteorite seemed to be filled with a crazy life force. As soon as the silver scale warrior landed on the ground, the branches of the dead trees pierced through him. The grayish-white branch was like a sharp spear. The silver scale warrior who had turned into a Een corpse was instantly pierced through like a piece of paper. Soon after, the withered tree's branches became soft and tough, slowly wrapping around the Een corpse like vines. A Een corpse from the Silver Scale clan, under Chu Yao's eyes, had its weak energy sucked out in a short period of time. As the branches tightened, it quickly turned into a skeleton. There was no flesh left. This strange scene made Chu Yao's hair stand on end. Then, he thought of Pei Yuling. Will Mr. Pei be all right? With this thought, he stared at the meteor below and inexplicably felt that the meteor seemed to be glowing with an abnormal and crazy life force. All of the withered trees and bones seemed to be covered by a mysterious power from the Earth's core, and were undergoing a strange change. After staring at the meteor for a long time, a desire and impulse appeared uncontrollably. The meteor seemed to be strongly attracting him, calling him, urging him to get down quickly. The attraction force of the meteorite went from weak to strong, and continued to increase. Chu Yao didn't have a strong will. Not long after, he felt dizzy. His mind was about to collapse. He wanted to follow the gravitational force released by the meteorite and jump to that meteorite. Whoosh! A fire lizard race clansman acted before him and jumped down to the meteor below with a deranged expression. Before he could land, the branches of the withered tree shot out one after another and pierced through the fire lizard race clansman like sinister snake. The 7th grade fire lizard race clansman was frozen in midair after being pierced through by the bizarre tree branches. The tree branches were like long, narrow steel spears, sharp, straight, and sturdy. The fire lizard race clansman was still floating in midair. His flesh and blood rapidly disappeared. Even his skin melted like a candle and was sucked clean by the tree branches. All that was left was a fleshless skeleton hanging on a few branches, completely empty. Chu Yao was instantly awakened. He shouted from the meteor above, "Mr. Pei? Mr. Pei, are you still there?" He shouted for a long time, but Pei Yuling didn't respond. Chu Yao only hesitated for a moment before bowing to the meteor below with a sorrowful expression. "I'm sorry. I'll tell the great cultivators of Howren why you died and where you died." When he realized that the attraction of the meteor to beings like him had increased, he didn't dare to hesitate anymore. Clenching his teeth, Chu Yao flew away, not daring to look back. A Een corpse has turned into a skeleton. In the miraculous land that was like a miniature star ash sea area, the Een corpse king frowned, his eyes dark and gloomy as he looked in a certain direction. There, I feel an unusual power. On the opposite island, Lin Zhuyun was using soul power as a brush to carve on the rock wall. She seemed indifferent. The image of a tall and sturdy man appeared vividly. Just as his face was about to be completely sculpted, the image of the man in the rock wall exploded with a bang. As if she didn't hear the Een Corpse King's words, Lin Zhuyun's eyes were cold as she focused on carving again. I think that master will be interested in that place. The Een Corpse King snorted. He didn't ask for Lin Zhuyun's opinion and suddenly changed direction. The shrunken land passed through many meteors and headed towards its destination. Yu Yuan suddenly woke up. The dragon beheading platform sealed in the small world in his acupoint shook slightly. It caused his acupoint to swell and hurt, forcing him to wake up. Whoosh! The long dragon beheading platform was summoned by him, and he held it with both hands. His Een spirit tried to communicate with the infant Titanspinosaurus inside the dragon beheading platform. He wanted to ask the infant what had happened. Soon, he received a clear answer. In the depths of the Jilin star field, there was a strange meteor that gave off a special spatial ripple. The spatial ripple was related to the void spirits. The dragon beheading platform was the heaven-opening divine stone of the void spirit race. It was a cocoon that their creator shed. Therefore, the dragon beheading platform would react to the special ripple related to the void spirit. The infant also said that the ripple was attracting the dragon beheading platform and leading it over. The infant's suggestion was to stay away. The famous alien battlefield seems to be full of mysteries and dangers. Yu Yuan pondered for a moment and decided to listen to the cub's suggestion. She didn't want to go to that place so as to avoid unnecessary trouble. However, the situation quickly went out of control. A meteor formed by a fragment of the sun. The Azura race's Elena, Berto, and a dozen or so Azura warriors with vigorous vitality surrounded the small meteorite. There are cultivators of the Red Devil School gathering solar energy to refine their yang spirit bodies. Bodo snorted. The cultivators of the Red Devil School and the Primal Yang sect, who have just formed their Yang spirit, will enter the Jilin star field to search for meteors formed by the explosion of the sun. Red Devil School. Elena raised an eyebrow and jumped down. Come out. Chapter 1245. The crimson meteor suddenly burst into flames. Crack! It was as if there was a hard piece of crystal in the depths of the meteor. In the next moment, streaks of divine fire shot towards the Azura warriors, carrying the sun spots with them. The sky was filled with flying flames, and it looked like a chaotic meteor shower. Clang! At the same time, a deep bell chime came from underground. Bright red lotuses bloomed beautifully amidst the blazing flames. Countless fire talismans and devilish characters covered the surface of the meteor in an instant. The lotuses were still gathering on this meteor formed from the fragments of the sun. The lotuses and flames gradually transformed into a dignified fiery devil that looked like a benevolent face. A lithe figure stepped on a giant bronze bell and appeared amidst the lotuses. The fiery devil formed from the lotuses and blazing flames floated behind the figure like a dedicated guard. It helped her control the divine flames, fire talismans, and devilish characters, and displayed the wonders of the molten lava demonic art to its fullest. A dozen or so Azura race warriors hurriedly avoided it. Lava pools were formed by the surging flames, and fiery liquid flowed out of them. Many rivers of fire were controlled by Yuan Lianyao's soul will like the tentacles of an evil devil. They started to brazenly set up the profound demonic formations of the Red Devil School. The Red Devil Bell. Berto of the Azura race shouted loudly the moment he saw the giant bronze bell. One after another, the divine flames that shot towards the Azura warriors were extinguished with a few simple knocks on their elbows. The bodies of rank 7 or 8 Azura race warriors were as tough as divine iron and stone. Normal things couldn't hurt them at all. Even though the divine flames didn't extinguish completely, they only left burn marks on their bodies. They didn't hurt them at all. "Don't be in a hurry to step into that meteor," Bodo shouted repeatedly in the Azura language. He told them about the origin and grade of the Red Devil Bell, its position among the spirit artifacts of the Red Devil School, and the power of the previous owners. With the help of this 6th-level heaven-grade spiritual tool, Yuan Lianyao gathered all of the residual power of the sun fragments within the meteor. Then, with the help of the Red Devil Bell, she formed rivers of flames, streaks of light, and incantations that were even more powerful than before. She also knew that the first wave of attacks would not be effective, so she hurriedly prepared a stronger demonic art. She, who had just entered the sun spirit realm, did not panic in the face of so many Shura warriors. She had already sent out the news, and she believed that Fang Yao must have received it. At this moment, he should be moving closer to her with the tranquil continent's sun god cultivators. With the protection of the Red Devil Bell and the remaining energy of this peculiar meteorite, she was confident that she could hold on for a while. When Fang Yao and the others arrived, these Shuras from the Silver Sand Star Field would be the ones to suffer. The Howran human cultivators would hunt down the high-grade non-humankind warriors. "This demonic artifact is powerful. Don't come down." Elena, who was the first to charge forward, stopped midway. She was as agile as a female leopard, and easily dodged all of the divine flames. Holding a giant silver hammer that did not match her size, she stared at the spirit artifact's soul behind Yuan Lianyao. Bloodline, eyes of Azura. Dozens of fine bloodline crystal chains that looked like young crystal dragons flashed brilliantly on the walls of Elena's chest. Elena's eyes suddenly became cold and deep, as if they had become two cold wells that covered the Red Devil Bell's spirit artifact. Fizz, fizz, fizz. The Red Devil Bell's spirit artifact, which was a combination of flames and souls, suddenly fell into the mysterious mouth of a frigid abyss, causing its flame power to be instantly melted by Qin Lai's frost power. Soon, the fiery talismans and demonic patterns on the surface of the meteor were all extinguished. The fiercely burning red lotuses were no longer miraculous, and were shrinking. Boom! Elena swung her giant silver hammer, which looked like a waning moon, down from the heavens and smashed heavily into the meteor made of a broken sun. The meteor, which was hundreds of acres wide, actually exploded under Elena's hammer. "Her Highness is amazing!" As expected of Her Highness Elena. Her Highness's Azura bloodline has been extremely domineering ever since it was awakened. If it weren't for some accidents, she would have become a powerful warrior in the Dark Realm long ago. The scattered Azura clansmen shouted as they used their spirit artifacts and their bloodline power to smash the meteor into pieces. The broken sun disappeared one after another, along with the flame power contained within it. After being injured, the Red Devil Bell's artifact soul immediately entered the artifact. Yuan Lianyao, who had hurriedly dodged Elena's hammer and shattered the meteorite, had a hint of panic in her eyes. She hadn't expected this Azura race girl to be born with brute strength, or that her silver hammer would be so terrifying. Without the broken sun to rely on, the Red Devil Bell's spirit artifact shrank, and Yuan Lianyao couldn't sense Fang Yao's location. After a moment of hesitation, she immediately flew away on the Red Devil Bell without hesitation. "Chase her." Birdo made a great deal of noise. The Azura clansmen were also ignited by Elena's battle spirit. They shouted and chased after her. After that attack, Elena made some adjustments in the air and circulated her blood meridians. The silver hammer flew out from a piece of shattered rock and landed firmly in her palm. The Red Devil School cultivates the molten lava demonic art. Her eyebrows twitched as if she suddenly thought of something. She shouted, "Stop chasing! There must be experts from the Red Devil School nearby. Don't let her lead you into a trap." Birdo and the other Azura clansmen suddenly calmed down. Under Yu Yuan's orders, The miraculous icy meteor changed its direction and moved away from the center of the battlefield. Yan Xiang was familiar with the dark forest star field. He purposely avoided the central area and took a different route to the star field where the winged race was active. Several days later, holding the dragon-slaying platform, Yu Yuan's eyebrows furrowed. The small worlds in his chest that had been opened by the Yin sunflower essence had once contained powerful fiendish demons. At this moment they actually reacted strangely. Great Yin soul art, soul guidance. As he silently recited the incantation, his Yin soul inside the dragon-slaying platform suddenly expanded rapidly. The power in the souls of the dead giant dragons was temporarily transferred to him. The dragon-slaying platform started to furiously strengthen his soul perception. Soon, he smelled the aura of the fiendish demon cauldron and learned its general location. He withdrew the incantation and rubbed his forehead. It seems that I have no choice but to participate. Whoosh! The Yin deity in the dragon beheading platform moved from where the cub was to the other side where the giant frost dragon was buried. He looked at the extreme cold heavenly demon, who had transformed into a crystalline entity, and said, "You should be prepared. You will be able to meet her soon." The old heavenly devil was overjoyed. "Really? The current her should be more powerful than you. You should make the best use of your time to forge this ice crystal body," Yu Yuan said. Chapter 1246. The enormous bronze bell whizzed through the air. Numerous fiery talismans and crimson demonic clouds were engraved on the surface of the bell. The raging flames made this heaven-grade spiritual artifact look like a piece of boiling iron. Yuan Lianyao, who was in her yang god form, stood at the mouth of the bell, her entire body burning with crimson flames. Inside the flames, bits of crystal glittered like stars, dazzling to the eye. Beneath her feet, the area that led to the bottom of the bell looked like a boiling pool of lava. The liquid inside the pool of lava surged endlessly, continuously delivering blazing flame energy to her yang god body. An enchanting lotus flower protected her body like a wondrous armor. She repeatedly looked back with a serious expression. Her soul awareness flashed around her like electric arcs, helping her sense the movements around her. She was worried that the pursuing Azura warriors might be hiding on the meteors and ambushing her. Of course she didn't trust the girl that the Azura experts respectfully addressed as Her Highness Elena. She thought that the Azura girls shouting for her clansmen to stop might be a tacit strategy so that the valiant Azura warriors would use other methods to deal with her. Yuan Lianyao didn't dare to be careless in front of the infamous Azura warriors in the famous Otherworld battlefield. Until she finally let out a sigh of relief after receiving Fang Yao's message. She identified the exact location and sent it to the Red Devil Bell's soul. The Red Devil Bell suddenly accelerated. A moment later, Yuan Lianyao met up with Fang Yao on the Red Devil Bell. "Where are the Azura warriors?" 3 gigantic fireballs floated behind Fang Yao's back. Each fireball was powerful enough to swallow over 10 non-humankind warriors at once. The fireballs were filled with both earthly and heavenly flames. They contained raging flame energy. A few cultivators from the Heavenly Evil sect and the Voodoo sect were also looking around. Chu Yao, who was from the Medicine God sect, looked slightly embarrassed when he saw Yuan Lianyao appear. Chu Yao had run into Fang Yao and this group of cultivators from the Tranquil Continent not long after escaping from that strange meteor and leaving Pei Yuling behind. Thus, he sought the protection of Fang Yao and the others, wanting to leave from the Star River Ferry as soon as possible. From him, Fang Yao learned about the upheaval that had taken place in the domain of illusion, as well as the terrifying changes that had happened to the meteor Pei Yuling had sunk into. After that, Fang Yao sensed Yuan Lianyao's distress signal and led everyone over. Thus the two sides met. "We might have lost them." Yuan Lianyao relaxed completely. She nodded at Fang Yao and explained, the Azura we met should have come from the Firefly Star Zone. There was a young girl named Elena. She carried a huge silver hammer and also had a level 8 bloodline. However, her battle prowess was abnormally shocking. She briefly explained the whole sequence of events. Then, he noticed that Feng Yao, the people from the Heavenly Diabolism sect, and Voodoo had strange expressions on their faces. He also noticed that there was a stranger in the crowd, cough cough. Feng Yao rubbed his shiny head and let out a few gruff chuckles. Pointing at Chu Yao, he said, "You should be familiar with this man. He's from the Medicine God sect. His name is Chu Yao. Not long ago, he went to the domain of illusion with Chao Jiazi and Fu Xianwen from Zuantianzong." Yuan Lianyao's expression was cold, and she didn't disguise the disdain and disgust on her face. Chu Yao, the young medicine god. He was Yu Yuan's legacy disciple from 300 years ago, and his favorite one at that. Now, he had become Zhong Chichen's son-in-law and was slated to be the next sect master of the medicine god sect. How could she not know? Chu Yao met Yu Yuan in the domain of illusion, and learned that Yu Yuan was traveling with a young Azura girl. That young Azura girl's name is Elena. She used to be a bandit, but has now been reaccepted by the Shura of Gojoseon. Feng Yao purposely didn't mention Hanch, and only mentioned Yu Yuan's name. Yuan Lianyao's long eyebrows slowly furrowed. Since she had just arrived in the Starry River, she hadn't heard much about what Yu Yuan had gone through after leaving Howran. The cultivators of the Red Devil School didn't mention Yu Yuan's deeds either, so she didn't know anything. This time, Feng Yao had learned from Chu Yao that Elena, the Azura girl, had shown up in the domain of Dark Forest. Therefore, it was very likely that Yu Yuan, who had left the domain of illusion with her, and the immortal bird, who had disguised itself as Chun Qinghuang, were also here. To be safe, Feng Yao decided to open his heart and tell Yuan Lianyao the truth. After hearing his words, Yuan Lianyao nodded in silence. However, her eyes gradually lit up. Under Yen Xiang's control, the icy meteor changed its direction again. Yen Xiang from the Ghost Spirit sect was full of questions, wondering what Yu Yuan was thinking. He told him to avoid the center of the Starry River. Even if he had to take a detour, he shouldn't go through the depths of the domain of Dark Forest. Not long ago, Yu Yuan suddenly changed his mind, and told him to go to the center. Yen Xiang had no choice but to do as he was told. In the world inside the dragon beheading platform, Yu Yuan's nether deity, which had been formed by practicing the Grand Een Soul incantation, communicated with the frigid heavenly devil, and suddenly understood something. Vaguely, he felt that his nether deity could create all kinds of attacks at will in the two small worlds inside the dragon beheading platform. The nether deity's mind was stirred. The frosty auras of the 8th and 9th grade frost dragons, and even the 10th grade dragon god's corpse, were instantly affected by his nether deity's control. The rules of heaven and earth in this small world suddenly changed. Crack, crack. Numerous sharp, sparkling icicles were formed in a very short time by the power of the frost dragons and the power of this small world. More than a dozen icicles were created in an instant, as if they were created by a god who controlled the rules of ice. The tips of the icicles shone with intimidating cold light. Inside them were thousands of thin, dragon-shaped icicles, which seemed to be the materialization of the rules of ice. The icicles were aimed at the recovering old heavenly devil one after another. The old heavenly devil's sparkling body stiffened, and he didn't dare to move. What are you doing? His demonic soul was trembling. He suddenly felt that the ruler of this strange world was using the core rules of the great Tao to crush his soul and body. It was just like how it had pierced through the ice crystal not long ago. In this small world, the old heavenly demon knew that he was powerless to resist the sharp piercing sensation from the dozens of 100-meter-long icicles. The Tao of ice that he had comprehended would be mercilessly obliterated the moment it came into contact with it. This was because they contained the power of a 10th grade frost dragon. That was a dragon god. Wonderful! Yu Yuan's Yin spirit, which was floating in the air, said with a satisfied smile. The dozen icicles mysteriously disintegrated in a breath's time and turned into icy dragon breath. They scattered the core power of this small world and merged back into the dragon-slaying platform. His mind changed again. The remnant thunder dragon breath in the body of a rank 9 thunder dragon turned into a violent thunderstorm in an instant. Then, Yu Yuan's nether divinity turned to look at a jade dragon that was born with deadly toxins. As a thought entered her mind, she saw numerous murky, poisonous rivers condensed from the residual dragon aura within the dragon's corpse. Frost, lightning, poison, and the power contained in the dragon corpse could be used by him as he wished. He could also transform into any form, be it physical or illusory, and attack the enemy with precision. As long as he was in the dragon-slaying platform, in the 2 small worlds, he could use all the power of the dragon corpse, as if he was a Tao integration stage benevolence cultivator. Whoosh! His Yin spirit instantly appeared in the small world where the space-time dragon's corpse was buried. With a thought, the remaining power of the space-time dragon turned into a spatial shield and a spatial blade. Because of his mind, time seemed to flow backward, and he could also freeze at a certain moment. I'm like a god. Yu Yuan couldn't help but spread his arms and make a gesture of embracing heaven and earth. He had never experienced such a wondrous experience in this life or his previous life. For the first time, he clearly felt that his soul, which cultivated the great Yin soul art, was the ruler of all things in the 2 worlds of the dragon-slaying platform. He was worthy of being called the only god. Chapter 1247. What a wonderful feeling! Yu Yuan's Yin spirit had a look of enjoyment on his face. He narrowed his eyes and embraced the world as if he owned the whole world. Inside the dragon-slaying platform, the 2 strange small worlds seemed to have become his domain, his God's domain. It could be controlled by his Yin spirit at will. He had never experienced such a realization before. He suddenly realized what the self-awakening of his first life had brought him before he left the Dark Star region. The dragon-slaying platform was originally a heaven-splitting divine stone, which he had carefully refined in his first life. He had created a unique divine artifact in the Shunhun sect. The dragon-slaying platform had buried the prosperity of the entire dragon race, causing the dragon race in the Howran world to be unable to rise again for tens of thousands of years. If the dragon-slaying platform had not needed to suppress the dragon race, his first life would not have died when he returned to the Howran. It was all because he did not have the best weapon. Now, tens of thousands of years later, the dragon-slaying platform that he had created in his first life finally recognized him and accepted his new identity. His mind was in turmoil again. In this small world, time was frozen and space was rippling. In another world, glaciers formed instantly, and violent whirlpools of lightning were casually created by him. The rivers of poison and dragon's breath interweaved in the air and flowed in a magical manner. All the dragon breaths, blood, and souls of the dragons that had been killed here could be used by him. The fundamental power that he had left behind in his first life, which had built the dragon-slaying platform, could also be used and changed at will. Whoosh! Yu Yuan's Yin spirit shuttled back and forth in the space he had created. Icebergs, thunderstorms, poisonous rivers, and lava, stopping occasionally. His smile became brighter and brighter, and gradually, a strong sense of confidence grew in him. He was confident that if the Yang Spirit Realm Masters and some Howran Grand Cultivators who had just entered the Freedom Realm were accidentally pulled into the inner world of the dragon-slaying platform, they would be directly crushed to death by the vast power of the dragon-slaying platform. Moreover, the two small worlds inside the dragon-slaying platform were extremely difficult to break through. After all, the dragon-slaying platform was different from other illusory worlds. This thing was a cocoon shed by a void spirit, and it could evolve into a real world. I'm suddenly looking forward to the turmoil in the depths of the dark forest star system and the war that will happen. Yu Yuan grinned happily. Strange. Yue abruptly stopped, and the exquisitely patterned armor instantly reformed into the fiendish demon cauldron. She stood at the mouth of the cauldron and sank down to the bottom of the cauldron. She looked at the black woman, armor breaker, and the yellow lantern demon. Her beautiful eyebrows furrowed. Have you found anything? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The fiendish demons flew away from the walls of the cauldron and knelt down humbly. The fiendish demons that hadn't gained enough intelligence and hadn't recovered their memories emitted soul fluctuations that only she, the cauldron's soul, could touch. Yue carefully identified them and nodded slightly. She was pleasantly surprised. She jumped up and reappeared from the cauldron. She explained to Yan Qiling, whose face was full of confusion, "My master should have noticed us. The fiendish demons that once lived in my master's meridians smelled the aura of the essence of Een Sunflower and felt that they were being glanced at from afar. You're right. My master is in this alien battlefield, and he's actively approaching us," Yue said excitedly. Yan Qiling was secretly surprised. "He sensed you first?" Yue nodded. "He's already become so powerful? As the cauldron's soul, you control the cauldron that is about to transform into a divine artifact. You can also use the power of all the powerful fiendish demons, but you didn't detect his existence first. This means that he is actually very far away from us," Yan Qiling muttered. Shaking his head, he said again, "Anyway, it doesn't make sense." Yue smiled and said, "To my master, anything that doesn't make sense can be made sense." Yan Qiling was stunned. He pondered over her strange words. After a while, he smiled and nodded, agreeing with her. "Since that's the case, we're not in a hurry to go to the place where the new gate of origin is forming. Let's wait patiently for that guy to come to us. That's for the best." Yue immediately agreed. After a moment of hesitation, she said, "Although I can't sense my master, I know that many powerful souls are approaching the place you mentioned. Mr. Yen, you should take your time and wait for the Tongtian Trading Company and the Shunhun sect to arrive." Yan Qiling smiled and said carelessly, "It's fine. As long as we don't run into people at the same level who have comprehended the true meaning of the power of space, even if we run into 3 or more Freedom Realm cultivators, I can easily take you away. I don't want to complicate matters before I see my master," Yue expressed. "I'll do as you say." On a strange meteor covered in withered trees and dried bones, a 7th-grade dark spirit corpse that had just been refined fell to the ground. Rip! The branches shot out, piercing through the Een corpse created by the dark spirit clan and nailing it in the air. Not long after, the Een corpse's flesh and skin disappeared, leaving behind only a skeleton. Not long after, the withered bones fell to the ground with a clatter, breaking into pieces. On the strange rock that looked like the Stardust Sea region, the Een corpse king's eyes were fierce as he muttered something. Lin Zhuyun flew out of the strange rock, without touching the ground, and appeared in the outside world in an instant. After she left, the strange stone on her back was only the size of a square brick. It was not eye-catching at all. No one would have thought that there was something else hidden inside. The power of the Chaos Kuan had poured into the strange rock to make it so mysterious. "Why did you come out?" The Een corpse king's dissatisfied voice came from the rock behind her. Lin Zhuyun did not respond. Her cold eyes stared at the giant meteor. She looked at it for a while, and then fell down in a strange way. The Een corpse king was shocked. He hurriedly moved the strange rock to where she had flown and put her back in. As soon as Lin Zhuyun returned inside, she seemed to have regained her consciousness. Her icy body sputtered a lot of unknown powers, which were melted by the strange heaven and earth. That meteor covered in withered trees is very strange. Lin Zhuyun recalled the feeling she had just felt. I looked at those withered trees and dried bones as if I saw a dense forest. I saw many foreign races in luxurious clothes under the lead of the dark spirit race to participate in a grand event. She revealed a dreamy expression. And I seemed to be invited. I wanted to jump down and participate. The Een Corpse King was shocked. I didn't expect that a small meteor could confuse your mind and make you hallucinate. Don't leave the realm master refined. Let's continue to observe. I believe that someone will come later to solve our doubts and help us find the answer. Lin Zhuyun nodded slightly and did not dare to be rude. Yuan. Yuan Lianyao repeated the name that haunted her dreams over and over again in her heart. With her back against the red devil bell, she listened to Fang Yao and the Yang spirits who had come with him carefully questioning Chu Yao. She did not seem to care about the strange meteor they had encountered not long ago. She was thinking about the relationship between that Azura girl and Yuan. Could it be that the other race member by the name of Elena knew about him and guessed his identity? Was that why she did not order her clansmen to continue pursuing him? People of different paths cannot work together. Fang Yao came over and slowly squatted down. He looked into the distance with her and sighed. Senior Hong helped me and my master 300 years ago. However, he has become a member of the Shunhun sect, and the Red Devil School is on the side of the Devil's Palace and the Goblin Temple. Yuan Lianyao remained silent. Promise me that if you really encounter it, you won't do anything. As long as you remain silent like you are now, I can help you after the event, Fang Yao said seriously. I don't know what I will do, Yuan Lianyao said in a low voice. How unlucky. I should not have brought you to this alien battlefield, Fang Yao said in distress. Chapter 1248. In a dark and cold cave, Princess Qing Luan, who had been sleeping for a long time, trembled slightly. Then, she exhaled and opened her eyes. Yu Yuan and Yan Xiang woke up abruptly and looked at her, not knowing what to do. Qin Qing Huang, who had a flawless face, floated like a ghost in the river of cold veins. One of her fingers, which looked like white jade, suddenly turned into a jade-green color. She pressed her finger against the cold river. A drop of blood that contained endless wonders flowed out of her fingertip. This drop of blood seemed to have opened up a new world in the river. The cold veins hidden in the clear, cold river were also activated. In an instant, it seemed to have evolved into a brand new strange realm in the universe, displaying all of its wonders. Yu Yuan walked closer in silence. When he looked down, his expression changed abruptly. An unknown starry sky suddenly appeared in the river. The stars were dim, and the sun and moon were nowhere to be seen. Amidst thousands of shattered rocks, an enormous peacock with colorful wings and a broad body floated quietly. The shattered rocks were covered in mottled bloodstains. The entire scene was filled with a sorrowful, dead silence and dull gray aura. Just looking at it made one feel indescribably oppressed. The magnificent demonic energy turned into a colorful halo that surrounded the huge peacock. However, a straight purple feather was inserted between the enormous peacock's eyebrows. The purple feather, which was as sharp as a mountain, emitted a soul-stirring brilliance. It emitted a terrifying aura that could twist all the laws of the world and dry up the bloodlines of all living beings. The purple feather pierced through the head of the enormous peacock, causing it to die miserably in the unknown universe. The dazzling purple feather was still absorbing the blood essence and soul energy of the enormous, gorgeous peacock. The magnificent, mottled demonic energy halo gradually dimmed. At the same time, the strange scene in the river also became blurry and illusory as time passed. Yan Xiang came closer and lowered his head to take a look. The eyes of his yang god body instantly cracked. He clutched his chest with one hand and hurriedly closed his eyes. The supreme of the Goblin Temple, Yan Xiang, moaned in pain and fear. Although he had only taken a glance, he had already recognized that the dead giant peacock was the Peacock King from the Goblin Temple. A level 9 bloodline great demon. As for the purple feather on the Peacock King's forehead, who else could it be other than the supreme demonic phoenix of the Goblin Temple? The Peacock King was a great demon of the Goblin Temple, and had been loyal to the Goblin Temple for thousands of years. Why was he killed by the demonic phoenix? Yan Xiang was filled with confusion. That person knows? After the initial shock, Yu Yuan quickly calmed down and shouted in a deep voice. The Peacock King's death also made him feel uncomfortable and depressed. 300 years ago, when he was still Haunch, he had crossed paths with the Peacock King. It could be said that he felt guilty toward the other party. Not long ago, 300 years later, the Peacock King had helped him when he was in dire need of flesh and blood energy. Therefore, he owed the Peacock King a great favor. Before he could repay his debt, before he could apologize for his previous life's bad taste, this colorful Peacock King actually died at the hands of that person. It was the same as the Spider Queen's death. She should have known. She was using this method to remind me. The Empress's expression was indifferent, but strange ripples appeared between her eyebrows. It seemed that she was also a little emotional because of the Peacock King's death, but she didn't show it too obviously. I, through this period of sleep, have remembered some things. While she was speaking, the Peacock King in another part of the universe had been drained of all his blood energy and soul energy by the purple feather that was as sharp as a mountain. The Peacock King's enormous body of a multicolored demon bird slowly turned into ashes within the millions of giant rock. The scene in the river also quickly disappeared because of her death. 100,000 years ago, I was surrounded by the strongest of the races in outer space. The Empress's casual words almost made Yan Xiang kneel on the ground in fear. Yan Xiang staggered and then steadied himself. He looked at Chen Qinghuang as if he was looking at a monster, and then looked at Yu Yuan as if he was asking for help. He wanted to ask for an answer. Yu Yuan didn't say anything. He looked at the Empress quietly and listened attentively. When Chen Qinghuang talked about the past 100,000 years ago, she used the word "I" to express a fact. She had openly admitted that she was the legendary immortal bird. I was killed by the strongest of the races. It was because of my death and destructive power that I lost control of. The star systems and worlds that I appeared in were contaminated by my uncontrollable power. One realm after another turned into a forbidden land of death because of me. Naturally, it caused panic and dissatisfaction among the experts of the races. The Empress was expressionless when she talked about the past. Yan Xiang was so scared that he fell to the ground. He had been hiding in the alien battlefield for many years, and had met many outsiders. From Chen Qinghuang's words, he guessed the immortal bird's identity. The immortal bird, the bird of death 100,000 years ago, the nightmare of death of all living beings. Yan Xiang muttered to himself in a daze. He didn't even dare to murmur. It was that demonic phoenix in the Goblin Temple that caused me to lose control. She was the one who caused my death and destructive power to go out of control. Many star systems were destroyed because of me. She also allowed the strongest of the races to gather all of their peak forces and kill me in the Annihilation star system. The corners of the Empress's mouth were as cold as the chilly river below. It's been too long. There are many things from 100,000 years ago that I want to remember and brand in the depths of my soul. Not only is it very time-consuming, but it also consumes a lot of energy. I can only remember that the demonic phoenix was the reason I lost control, but I still can't remember the specific reason. After a pause, she added, "But I'll remember everything eventually." She suddenly withdrew her hand that was as white as jade and her finger that was as green as jade. In the chilly river, A drop of bright green blood that seemed to contain endless vitality was shining brightly. It didn't disappear along with her finger and arm. Thump, thump, Yu Yuan's heart pounded violently. That drop of green blood seemed to have become a sinful poppy fruit in the chilly river, which attracted him crazily. It seemed that there were innumerable demon words screaming in his ears, urging him to swallow that drop of blood. Gendo, who had sunk into his acupuncture points, and the 7 blood souls in the blood world were also stimulated. They rushed out together with Gendo as if they were about to lose control. Yu Yuan's face reddened. He tried his best to suppress himself and Gendo. The Empress wore an indifferent face. A strange light flashed deep in her eyes. "I'm going to sleep again to gather my memories. You can't take that drop of blood in the river. No human or monster can take it away from me. But it will release a unique smell that will attract the great monsters and strange beasts in this star system. They will crazily search for it. Kill all the monsters and strange beasts in this world for me, especially the great monsters from the Goblin Temple. Think of it as returning the favor to her." After saying this, the Empress returned to her usual place, sat down, and closed her eyes. Yu Yuan, on the other hand, frowned deeply as he stared at the drop of green blood, thinking about the disaster that Chen Qinghuang's words might cause. She. Yan Ziang stammered and finally opened his mouth. Chen Qinghuang, the founder of the Blue Phoenix Empire in Haoran. Yu Yuan explained. When Yan Ziang was still in a daze, he added, "You should know who she was 100,000 years ago." Yan Ziang was shocked. "I knew it! Kill monsters to return the favor to that person? But why me?" Yu Yuan's face was bitter. He summoned Gendo's blood prison from the small world in his acupuncture point. "If you want to swallow that drop of blood, you can try." He put Gendo on the cold rocky ground. 7 huge blood souls flew out of the dark red blade. They hesitated for a while in the air, and then jumped toward the cold river, trying to swallow the green drop of blood. The blood, which was full of vitality, suddenly released the aura of death and destruction. The 7 blood souls ran back to Gendo as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Gendo shook violently. Chapter 1249. In the alien battlefield. On a meteorite that was as black as ink, rocks suddenly flew out of the ground. A black monster that seemed to have merged with the meteorite rolled out of the ground. When it stood up straight, it was several 100 feet tall, and its entire body was like black iron. Thick black grease overflowed from the cracked ground. He opened his mouth and sucked it in. The grease flowed into his mouth like a black river. The barbarian bull stamped his foot, and the meteorite shattered with a crack 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 sound. His huge monster body gradually shrank. Soon, he turned into a brawny man with an unusually large body. Most of his black body was naked. Only his waist and abdomen were covered with a black leather armor of the same color. There was a huge curved horn on his forehead, and his eyes were full of brutality. Huff! His nostrils kept moving, and his chest heaved violently, as if he was instinctively sensing something. Rings of pitch-black blood-colored ripples spread out in all directions with his body as the center. The smell of God's blood. He raised his head and howled. The meteorite that he had used to hide himself suddenly exploded. A black lightning bolt was condensed by him, and it traveled thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. Bang! Bang bang! The lightning bolt pierced through many meteorites. Wherever it passed, debris flew and rocks exploded. Inside a meteorite that was mixed with rocks of different colors, a seemingly gentle and beautiful woman was sitting. The woman was thin and weak, and her arms were as thin as bones. She suddenly laughed in a low voice. While laughing, she opened her mouth, revealing rows of sharp fangs that were like dense fish bones. Her mouth, which was originally not big, opened wider and wider, as if she could swallow many people at once. If someone came closer to take a look, they would find that there was actually a universe inside her mouth. Bloody corpses were nailed to the walls of her mouth by sharp thorns, and she was still eating away at their flesh and blood. Puff! A skeleton without flesh or internal organs was suddenly spat out by her. It fell to the ground and fell apart. It was the skeleton of the Moonlight People, who had lost all value and been eaten by her. She closed her mouth again and instantly regained her gentle and harmless appearance. She pursed her lips and smiled. She licked the corner of her lips and said, "A drop of divine blood." The meteors made of rocks of various colors suddenly adjusted their direction and accelerated. Similar scenes were happening in different regions. Some of the grand demons that frequented the domain of dark forest all year round to collect pieces of the sun, moon, and stars, refine fine gold ores, and devour the outsiders to make breakthroughs were alarmed one after another. The drop of Princess Qing Luan's blood made the meteor where Yu Yuan was become as dazzling as a lamp. All of the powerful demons and rare exotic beasts near him sensed his presence. In the depths of the dark forest star system, Pei Yuling was hiding a strange meteor. Only creatures that came close to it would be attracted and pulled into it. There was no need for Yu Yuan. A drop of Her Majesty's blood was constantly emitting an alluring aura that made great demons and strange beasts go crazy. It was as if it was telling those creatures that there was an ownerless drop of divine blood on a moving meteor that had just been discovered, and that they should come and eat it as soon as possible. As for that meteorite, it was still flying at high speed in the famous alien battlefield. As a result, the range of the divine blood's aura became wider and wider, attracting more and more powerful demons and exotic beasts. In a frigid cave, Yen Xiang from the Ghost Spirit sect was restless. He glanced at the river that contained the frigid veins and the drop of bright green blood from time to time. Even his eyelids and temples were twitching crazily in his yang spirit body. This was because he, who had a subtle connection with this extremely frigid land, had sensed many terrifying tides of demonic energy on the meteor's way. Of course, he knew that some powerful demons must have been awakened by the drop of divine blood and reacted to it. From Yu Yuan, he had learned that Qin Qinghuang was the immortal bird from outer space. He also knew that Qin Qinghuang was in a special situation right now. His fighting capacity was unknown, and his memory was still in a chaotic state. Yu Yuan, should we change our direction? I have a feeling that the number of powerful demons and exotic beasts that have been awakened by us is increasing because of the direction we're heading. Yen Xiang smiled bitterly and subconsciously glanced at the sleeping Qin Qinghuang. Is there something happening in the center of the alien battlefield? Yu Yuan, who was holding Gendo's blood prison and sensing the abnormalities of the 7 blood souls, nodded. I'll go outside. Before Yen Xiang could ask again, he dashed out and went to the surface of the meteor through a relatively large hole. The existence of the drop of Her Majesty's blood made all of Yen Xiang's concealment of this place meaningless. Anyway, the powerful demons and exotic beasts would be attracted to this place sooner or later. Hiding would be a waste of time. After an unknown period of time, boom! A level 8 golden crag beast, in its pure beast form, suddenly descended. The meteorite, which was still flying a moment ago, suddenly sank down a bit. The moment it landed, the gravitational field changed. This ferocious beast, which was shaped like a golden lion, had golden eyes full of brutality. However, there was no intelligence in its eyes at all. It seemed that the drop of Qin Qinghuang's blood had gone to its head on purpose. Of course, a level 8 demon shouldn't be like this, unless it was affected by external forces. The moment it landed, the golden crag beast didn't say anything and stepped on a large hole with its hoof. It seemed that it wanted to enter the meteor and find the drop of blood first. It seems that it will be easier. Yu Yuan couldn't help laughing. Holding Gendo's blood prison tightly in his hand, he suddenly released a blood-red ocean, in which the 7 blood souls were floating like blood-red suns. It's indeed easier to kill a powerful demon without intelligence. Whoosh! The blood-red ocean immediately spread towards the level 8 golden crag beast. Yu Yuan abandoned his saber and followed it with a smile. Gendo was naturally bloodthirsty, especially towards creatures with flesh and blood. It would be even more thirsty and greedy. Although Gendo's first owner was a Howran powerful demon, it had been passed through many hands. Powerful alien races had also taken control of it, and all of them had turned against it. Therefore, Blood Prison wouldn't be merciful just because its target was a powerful demon. Kill it however you like, Yu Yuan said in his mind. Roar! Roar! The level 8 golden crag beast roared. Its demon blood boiled, and the magnetic field around it became chaotic. All of a sudden, the sea of blood that had drifted over turned into clusters of blood souls. Like giant red lanterns, they floated next to the golden stone beast. In the next moment, a sky full of saber aura was released from the 7 blood souls. The 7 blood souls seemed to have become several saber wielders. At different times and in different places, they swung Gendo's blood prison to kill the golden crag beast. Yu Yuan seemed to see all kinds of bloodline mysteries and talents being used by powerful demons and alien races. It seems that blood prison isn't without saber souls. It's just that there are 7 of them, and they're not unified, Yu Yuan said thoughtfully. The golden crag beast was trapped and roared nonstop. However, its tough body was still covered in fine but deep wounds, and they were becoming more and more frequent. Golden crag beasts live in group. I wonder if Jin Li is also in this alien battlefield. Yu Yuan rubbed his chin and continued to mutter. Jin Li was a level 9 golden crag beast. When a powerful demon's bloodline reached level 9, he could be called a demon king in the Goblin Temple. For example, Peacock King and Ash Wolf King. Before ancient god Golden Elephant became a level 10 demon god, he was also called Golden Elephant King. It was a symbol of power and status. Jin Li was also a demon king with extraordinary intelligence and combat strength. He also commanded many golden crag beasts. If he was also in the Dark Forest Star Zone, it would be troublesome. However, Yu Yuan looked down at his feet. He calmed down when he thought of the person sleeping in the cave who would wake up at the right moment. Chapter 1250. As expected, Gendo successfully killed a grade 8 golden crag beast that had lost its intelligence. The golden crag beast's flesh and blood, including its demonic soul, were devoured by Gendo. Yu Yuan sent a wisp of his soul consciousness into Gendo's body. He could clearly see that the strange blood-colored world inside the saber only had a larger ball of blood-colored light. Compared to the 7 enormous and dazzling blood souls, it was clearly not on the same level. After all, the 7 blood souls had been the masters of blood prison for generations. They were either grade 9 demon kings or vicious beings of the same level as the foreign races. The larger ball of blood-colored light was cut and crushed by the interweaving blood light inside Gendo. At this moment, refined and pure blood power gradually flowed out of the saber hilt in Yu Yuan's hand. It carried a gentle aura and automatically entered Yu Yuan's palm. Then, it passed through the veins in his palm and moved toward his internal organs, bones, and muscles. Yu Yuan's eyebrows twitched slightly. He silently sensed and realized that the life altar in the blood aura world that was in a state of metamorphosis had no intention of taking a share of the loot. The sun spirit that had merged with the life altar was self-sufficient and did not seek help from the outside world. However, it seemed that it would take a long time for the life altar and the life altar to completely merge into one. Fiend body tempering art. His shoulders shook. The pure blood power that had entered his body instantly disappeared into the depths of his internal organs like golden lightning due to the activation of the fiend body tempering art. His heart beat violently. His spleen and stomach were like dry soil that automatically swallowed the golden lightning. A moment later, an expression of longing appeared on his face. There's still a lot of room for me to strengthen my body. I need more pure blood power. It seems that hunting the great demons of the Goblin Temple on this meteor isn't a difficult task for me. But the prerequisite is that I can keep winning. After a bright smile, he slightly tightened his grip on Gendo. He looked to the left and soon saw an 8th-grade blood-traced beast, which was also recklessly running toward him. Yu Yuan raised his saber and charged forward. Your Highness Elena, let's return to the Firefly Starfield. That's where you belong. Bodo of the Azura race tried his best to persuade this peerlessly talented young lady to stop wandering around Nightmare Forest Star region. Your combat strength and bloodline advancement should be in Firefly Star region. Your Highness, I even think that you should prepare to participate in the Dark Domain's training. The other Azura race warriors on the meteor nodded in agreement. Recently, they had all witnessed Elena's innate strength. They had seen how terrifying the destructive power she could cause when she swung her giant hammer and used the power of her bloodline. They firmly believed that once Elena went through the trials of the Dark Realm and became the noble Dark Realm Azura, she would surpass Lord Fernan in the future and turn the Firefly Galaxy into a sacred land for the Azura race. What's the rush? The Julin star field has been quite lively lately. Let's stay for a few more days and take a look. Elena seemed very calm. She sat on the edge of the meteor and rested her chin on her hands, gazing into the distance. I also want to know what happened in the domain of shadow illusion. I want to know if Shiala and the others will also enter this alien battlefield. I have a feeling that this place is becoming more and more dangerous, but it's also full of opportunities. Bodo said in a deep voice, have you ever thought that the two geniuses of the Primal Yang sect and Xuantianzong will also escape to this place? What are you afraid of? The High Chieftain of the Star Spirits is in the domain of shadow illusion. What's there to worry about? Elena didn't care. Bodo chose his words carefully and said, because of our king's decision, we've deviated from the ideals of many other races. The Star Spirits don't like us. Elena was about to say that the Star Spirits wouldn't make things difficult for her as long as Geralt was there, when she suddenly felt a surge in her bloodline. She instantly fell silent and focused on observing the changes in her bloodline. She could vaguely see that the scattered golden sparks were converging towards a certain location. The golden stone beasts are gathering and rapidly approaching a certain location. Elena was greatly surprised. As she spoke, she took out a silver medallion that was engraved with many exquisite patterns from her chest and pointed at the golden stone beast blood in it. I can only sense the traces of the golden stone beasts, and there's a limit to how far I can go. Bodo and the others immediately drew closer to take a look. The golden stone beast blood in the silver medallion was something they had obtained earlier. They had given it to Elena, and she had branded it in a tool in their clan to sense the golden stone beasts' movements. They didn't do this to hunt the golden stone beasts, but to avoid them. After all, they were well aware that the golden stone beasts in this area of the exploding shattered stars hunted outsiders in groups, and they were said to be waiting for Jean Li's arrival. Bodo and the others knew that they were no match for the large number of 8th-grade golden stone beasts and Jean Li. If they killed any one of them, the other golden stone beasts would be alerted, and they would be besieged. The loss outweighed the gain. Has Jean Li arrived? Bodo observed for a while, his expression extremely grim. We all know that the humans of Hauran have hidden fairies that constantly change their location in the alien battlefield. It's possible that Jean Li arrived through those fairies and summoned his clan. That's why all the scattered golden stone beasts went to meet him. After hearing Bodo's analysis, all the Azura warriors on the scene grew solemn. Let's go, Elena said cautiously. We don't want to take risks. Let's go somewhere else first, and then we'll consider going home." Hearing her words, the Azura warriors gradually let out sighs of relief. Whoosh! At this moment, a pitch-black lightning bolt pierced through a meteor in the distance and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Inside the lightning bolt, a muscular, naked man could be vaguely seen. His demonic aura was soaring to the heavens. Bodo's bloodline froze the moment he saw him. A 9th-grade Grand Demon! He must have discovered us, but he just ignored us. A Azura warrior exclaimed. "Something is wrong. Something is very wrong," Bodo murmured. On top of an icy meteor, Yuyuan held Gendo in his hand and looked at an uninvited guest with a sinister smile. It was a muscular, pitch-black man with curved horns on his head. Most of his exposed skin was covered in innate demonic patterns. This was a demon king who had taken human form. Unlike the golden stone beasts, blood-traced beasts, radium condors, and wind wolves that he had easily killed, this pitch-black man's brutal, bloodthirsty eyes seemed to be filled with intelligence. Clearly, his intelligence was still intact, and he hadn't been destroyed by Chen Qinghuang's drop of blood. Blood prison. The moment the pitch-black man landed, he immediately saw Gendo and turned pale with fright. "You know him?" Yuyuan raised Gendo, flicked his wrist, and shook out balls of blood-colored light. Then, he pointed them at the Demon King, his fighting spirit rising bit by bit. Inside his acupoints was the divine artifact dragon-slaying platform, which could bind and refine foreign beasts and kill them slowly. In addition, he had the scabbard of the heaven-raising sword, which was so sharp that it could pierce through all barriers. Coupled with the tame demon saber blood prison, and her strong physique that had been tempered thousands of times, Yuyuan was not afraid of facing a level 9 demon king, even if she had not formed her yang spirit. Even if he couldn't defeat him, he still had the immortal bird sleeping under his feet. What did he have to be afraid of? "Of course I know him. The first master of this saber was my leader." The brawny man grinned and didn't rush forward. Instead, he looked around and guessed Yuyuan's background. "I heard that you disappeared from the Dark Star Zone with that person. That drop of blood should have come from her, right?" Licking the tip of his tongue greedily, the demonic patterns on the man's body began to change magically. Large patches of demonic patterns turned into cold black scales, covering his heart and other vital parts. "Is she seriously injured?" The hunger in the big monster's eyes was ignited like a demonic fire. When he thought of the legendary undying bird lying in a pool of his own blood in the meteorite below, the Monster King seemed to see the stairway to heaven to ascend to the level of a monster god. "Yes, she's seriously injured. She's dying." Yuyuan sighed. Inside the cave, Yen Xiang glanced at the sleeping Her Majesty the Empress, his heart beating wildly. Chapter 1251. A golden crag beast, who was as strong as a mountain, immediately used a drop of demon blood to sense his race after entering the famous alien battlefield through the Star River ferry guarded by the Xuantianzong. His drop of golden demon blood shone like the rising sun, illuminating the entire Star River. Ripples of demon energy spread to thousands of miles away and continued to spread. Inside the meteorite that looked like an open shell, the guardian of the Xuantianzong watched in silence and exclaimed inwardly. He knew that the golden crag beast in front of him was called Jinli, a level 9 demon king. The reason why Jinli was here instead of in the dark space zone was that he had sent many golden crag beasts here before the tragedy in the dark space zone happened. Because his race was here, after the tragedy in the dark space zone, he hesitated and didn't accept the Goblin Temple's command. After taking care of his own affairs, he still remembered his race and decided to come here. However, after he used his demon blood to try to communicate with a few capable subordinates, he found something strange. All of his subordinates seemed to have lost their minds. Those who also had level 8 bloodlines and had gained intelligence like him seemed to have degenerated into ferocious beasts that only knew how to kill. None of the golden crag beasts responded to his call. They didn't seem to feel it. Moreover, many of the golden crag beasts were gathering in one direction. That was not where he was right now. Genli panted and sulked for a while. Then he growled angrily and quickly left. What's going on? Yen Qiling stood on a white meteorite, holding a newly carved crescent moon ornament in his hand. He looked down at the ground below him. He was currently in the sky above the alien battlefield. The meteorite he was standing on used to be a fragment of a crescent moon, which was somewhat similar to the falling star eyes that Lu Ying had refined. With his knowledge of space power and this unique meteorite, he and Yue could see many wonders. They noticed that many powerful demons that they hadn't noticed before had suddenly shown up. Then, as if they had been injected with chicken blood, they all rushed towards a certain place behind them. Not only were the great demons alarmed, but some exotic beasts from beyond the heavens were also alarmed. Could it be that the condensation of the origin world door in the depths of the battlefield caused some other unexpected phenomenon? Yen Qiling frowned and was puzzled. That's impossible. The gate in Howren, and the gate in the strange lands of the outsiders, won't cause the beast hordes to go crazy? In order to comprehend the power of space, he had entered the outer realms of the universe and obtained the recognition of the Shenhun sect. Then, he had gone to learn about the mysterious gate to the origin realm. He'd never heard that demon beasts and cosmos beasts would go berserk after the gate of origin was formed. They're not even in two different directions, Yue said. It's only the great demons and the strange beasts that are acting strangely. Both of them have the same characteristic. When they're just born, their bloodline grade isn't high, and they don't have any intelligence. Yen Qiling narrowed his eyes, a strange expression on his face. On the other hand, it's very easy for them to lose control and reason. He said this because he noticed that the great demons and strange beasts that were moving out had lost their mind. They had become wild beasts that only followed their instincts, either the front or the back. Let's choose a place to explore, Yue suggested. There's a newly formed gate to the origin world in front of us at the center of the battlefield. Behind us, a beast hordes are gathering. We don't know why, Yen Qiling muttered. You choose. Behind us. My master should be behind us. I want to find him first, Yue said in a decisive tone. As you wish. On the cold meteor, bloody blade lights wove into many strange webs that flew towards the large, dark-skinned man that the Demon King had transformed into. The burly man grinned strangely, shuttling back and forth in the countless blade lights like lightning, approaching Yu Yuan from time to time and engaging in a physical collision. Boy, the fiend body refining art you're cultivating is really something. Whoosh! An enormous blood soul suddenly took the form of a blood ape amidst the bloody webs that filled the sky. The blood ape sky shaking roared as it took out a giant iron rod from somewhere and smashed it into the back of the large man's head. The dark-skinned Demon King was smashed to the ground by the rod. He got up dizzily and looked at the blood soul in the form of a giant ape. The savage light in his eyes quickly withdrew. He even had a nostalgic look on his face. Lord Sky-Shaking Ape, the first time I fought for the world, it was under your command. At that time, when I fought against foreign experts, you taught me a lesson like this whenever I was the slightest bit timid. The large man sighed with emotion. He was in no hurry to fight back, as if he wanted to take a few more glances at the blood soul. As if in response to him, the other 6 blood souls in the interweaving bloody webs suddenly shrank correspondingly. Only the blood soul in the form of the sky-shaking ape continued to grow. It was as if it had awakened a bit of its intelligence for an extremely short period of time, while shaking her numb and burning arms. Yu Yuan looked at the Demon King, who was originally a black-oiled bull, and was secretly surprised. The black-oil barbaric bull was an extremely unique demonic beast of the vast great world. This demonic beast was used to living in the depths of desolate and uninhabited mountains. It would search for a kind of ink-black oil under the ground and refine that oil to strengthen its bloodline, thus rapidly breaking through to the next realm. In the Howran Great World, that kind of black oil was not endless. Therefore, when a black oil bull reached rank 8, it would be ordered to be sent to outer space by the Goblin Temple. Also, they would do their best to not let them return to Howran. Therefore, most of the high-level black oil bulls fought in outer space and used the black oil in outer space to break through their bloodline. The black oil bull in front of him, whose bloodline had reached rank 9, was famous in Howran legends. 300 years ago, when he was still the medicine god Haunch, he had heard of it. The rapidly expanding blood soul seemed to have transformed into an enormous ape in a very short period of time. Its scarlet demonic eyes stared fixedly at the burly man with pitch-black skin, full of vigor. How sad! Someone as strong as you was devoured by a blade. The black oil bull shook its head and looked very regretful. If not for this blade, if you were still here, I might have a chance to become a demon god in this chaotic world. Of course, it is just a little bit of hope. I feel that I am more qualified. The black-skinned man laughed. Black Bull, you are still so arrogant. A soft and melodious female voice came from behind a distant meteorite. Then, a colorful meteorite flew over like a flirtatious woman. Amidst the colorful rubble, a thin demonic figure appeared out of thin air. She pursed her lips and smiled. Whoosh! In the next moment, she stopped next to the black oil bull and waved her skinny hand. The meteor she was standing on suddenly exploded. The colorful rocks turned into hundreds of thousands of colorful stones, radiating bright light as they appeared behind her. You are Yu Yuan? The woman looked weak and gentle. She said slowly, Tisk Tsk, a strong young man with a good appearance. What a pity. She smiled with narrowed eyes and said to the black oil bull, Don't worry, there are many juniors of the temple on their way. Are they not dead enough? The black oil bull snarled. The moment he landed, he knew that the juniors of the Goblin Temple, such as the Golden Crag Beast, the Blood Trace Beast, and the Wind Wolf, had died to the Jendo called Blood Prison. He, who had not returned to Howran for hundreds of years, had no feelings for the juniors of the Goblin Temple. There are only a few of them. It is definitely not enough. The woman lowered her head. Her line of sight seemed to have passed through the numerous holes and caught sight of that drop of tender green, dazzling blood. Black Bull, you're too arrogant. Do you really think that you can get anything by yourself? If that person is really down there, it will be more than one drop of blood. The black oil bull was stunned. Yu Yuan, do you know that the Goblin Temple thought highly of you? Lord Golden Elephant even recommended you, but you rejected the Goblin Temple's invitation. The woman sighed with a look of appreciation. The kids you're close to are all doing well in the Demon Palace. Zhan Tianxiang, Zhao Yafu, and some other people you're familiar with. Stop. Yu Yuan's face darkened. Chapter 1252. The newcomer had a faint smile on her face. She was wearing a floral dress. The moment she landed, she scolded the black oil bull and mentioned how friendly the Goblin Temple had been to Yu Yuan. Seeing that Yu Yuan's face had darkened, she tactfully shut her mouth. Then, she casually walked to the pitch-black bull and squatted down beside it. She approached a hole that led to the bottom and carefully observed it. Seeing that she was approaching, the black oil bull unnaturally took a few steps back and deliberately kept a distance from her. This small detail surprised Yu Yuan and put him on guard. Then, Yu Yuan thought of his past with the Goblin Temple and the people of the Goblin Temple. Complicated feelings filled his heart. He still remembered that it was Su Zishi, the Python Queen, who had invited him into the great desolate God Lake. He also knew that it was the Goblin Temple's idea. That was because he had received the acknowledgement of the heaven-raising sword's soul in the forbidden land of fallen moons. Perhaps it was because of Yushu, but the Goblin Temple had always been very friendly to him. Whether it was Suzishi or the respected ancient god Golden Elephant, they had indeed extended an olive branch to the Goblin Temple. He had rejected all of them. Later, when he had encountered troubles and difficulties, the Goblin Temple had dealt with the forces led by the Spirit Void sect and the Devil's Palace to deal with the Yu clan. At first glance, the Goblin Temple seemed to have treated him well. However, the image of the huge eight-legged spider being killed by the purple phoenix in outer space unconsciously appeared in Yu Yuan's mind. Not long ago, the gorgeous Peacock King's forehead had been pierced by a purple feather. Since the supreme expert of the Goblin Temple had killed the eight-legged spider with his own hands, how could he not have seen through Yushu's origins? Why did he want to cultivate Yushu? Also, why did the Goblin Temple start to accept and recruit more and more human geniuses? What was the meaning of imparting alternative demon incantations and making geniuses like Su Zishi, Zhang Tianxiang, and Zhao Yafu a member of the Goblin Temple? The demonic arts they cultivated were similar to those of the ancient Desolate sect and the Fiend Demon sect. Zhang Tianxiang had the elephant god's demonic markings in his body, as well as its power. The Python Queen Su Zishuan refined the giant pythons for her own use. Zhao Yafu learned from Bai Tianhu, and her cultivation base was also rapidly breaking through. Those who joined the Goblin Temple cultivated strange Yao arts, but they still followed the normal cultivation system of the Howran humans. It was exactly the same as the three great sects, the Devil's Palace, and the cultivators from the lower sections. They were not like the great demons of the Goblin Temple, who were ranked from 1 to 10 according to their bloodline. The Goblin Temple seemed to have specially created a brand new Yao art for the human race. For example, after the cultivators of the Shunhun sect had fled to the domain of outer heaven, they had changed their cultivation methods and allowed the outsiders with special bloodlines to cultivate using the human system of spiritual power. Yu Yuan's thoughts surged. After charging out of the Howran, he had come into contact with many outsiders and learned many secrets. Through the life altar and the blood essences of the experts of various races, he had gained his own unique understanding of the power and bloodlines of all beings in the world. His perspective on matters had also changed. He instinctively felt that the Goblin Temple had been changing through the passage of time. It had become stronger and stronger. He remembered that at the very beginning, the Goblin Temple did not accept people. At some point in time, the Goblin Temple had begun to find talented people from the Qianxian continent and brought them into the Goblin Temple to be taught strange Yao art. Mortal children, boys and girls, through the Goblin Temple's Yao arts, could embark on the path of cultivation like the three great sects and the Devil's Palace. However, until now, no human cultivator of the Yao arts had been able to ascend to the highest seats like the Yao gods of the Goblin Temple. The Freedom Realm was already the highest level for those of the human race who wanted to cultivate to become a demon. Yu Yuan rubbed his chin, his eyes flashing. He looked at this matter from a different perspective and vaguely felt that the Goblin Temple's change and its recruitment of human cultivators must have a deeper meaning. However, he could not understand it in a short time. The black-whaled bull and the female great demon who had just arrived exchanged a few words with each other. They suddenly became much more patient and did not rush to charge underground. They were calmly thinking about Chen Qinghuang's situation and communicating with each other using secret technique. The female great demon was still squatting and did not ask Yu Yuan anything. It was as if she did not see the Gendo called Blood Prison that had created a sea of blood, and did not see the enormous heaven-shaking ape that had once been a member of the Goblin Temple. Just like this, a while later, Lord Lulu was freed because of you? The female, whose true form was that of a fish, suddenly raised her head, her eyes shining with a strange light as she suddenly said this. This is not a secret, Yu Yuan said coldly. Back then, the Grand Commander's status in the depths of the starry river was far higher than that of the heaven-shaking ape. As she said this, the female finally looked at the blood soul of the heaven-shaking ape that had been devoured by the Gendo. Disdain could be seen at the corner of her mouth. I feel a little bad for the Grand Commander. He is the leader of the water demons of the Howren. He should have become a Yao god before Lord Tianhu. Be careful with your words, the black-whaled bull shouted. What can't I say? The female snorted, her eyes gradually filled with unwillingness. Think about it. The Goblin Temple originally had the chance to have 4 Yao gods. The Grand Commander is imprisoned in Sword Prison. There must be humans causing trouble in there. If it weren't for them, we would have 5 Yao gods. And that one in the Great Swamp. The female of unknown origin actually spoke up for Lulu in front of Yu Yuan. Judging from her words and actions, she seemed to respect Lulu. In her heart, Lulu, who had been imprisoned in Sword Prison for many years, seemed to be the pride of the water demons of the Howren. When she spoke of Tianhu, she didn't seem to have any respect. She seemed to be indifferent. Yu Yuan suddenly thought of Lulu, who was also full of resentment towards the Supreme of the Goblin Temple. Lulu did seem to be angry and confused because of that demonic phoenix. He was only imprisoned in Sword Prison. He didn't die in a foreign starry river like the 8-legged spider or the Peacock King. He didn't know if the demonic phoenix had given him a way out or if he was too difficult to deal with. Once he was killed, too many people would be implicated. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The frenzied golden crag beasts finally arrived from all directions and gradually appeared. When the female saw the golden crag beasts, a gloating expression appeared on her face. She gestured at the black oil bull and said, "If Jean Li knew that so many of his people died here, he would definitely be heartbroken." The black oil bull grinned viciously. "I don't have any relationship with Jean Li anyway." "Me neither," the female said with a strange smile. They had all noticed that this group of 8th-grade golden crag beasts had all lost their intelligence before they arrived at the meteor, as if they had degenerated from demons into demons. Neither of them had a good relationship with Jean Li. If it had been other demons that had come, they might have interfered and stopped them. However, since it was the golden crag beasts, they immediately put on airs, as if they were going to stay out of it. The roaring heaven-shaking ape in the sea of blood created by Gendo's blood prison gradually shrank, while the other 6 blood souls grew stronger. Go! With a thought, Yu Yuan sent a sea of blood towards the first golden crag beast. He grinned and sneered at the woman and the black oil bull. Then, he stomped his foot on the ground and shot into the sky towards the second golden crag beast. "Aren't you afraid that I'll dive into it?" the female asked with a smile. Yu Yuan didn't answer. "You're not afraid, but I'm worried." The female demon of unknown origins suddenly swung her long sleeves towards the hole she had approached earlier. Then, one multicolored fish after another nimbly sank into the hole. From the looks of it, she had been waiting for this moment, waiting for Yu Yuan to be occupied. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.